Chapter 880, Overlord vs. Tao Lord. Chapter 880, Overlord vs. Tao Lord. Many high-level fiend demons were in a bloodied state coiled by the 7 emotions threads. Before they could release any demonic arts, they were already in unendurable pain as they sank deeper and deeper. The 7 emotions threads were connected to Tao Lord Cloud Rain's palms on the other end. All of those high-level fiend demons were like puppets of Tao Lord Cloud Rain. They were neither in control of their bodies or their fates. Su Zimo was secretly stunned when he heard the background of the 7 emotions threads. As his cultivation deepened, the level of things he interacted with increased and the dermic arts and secret skills that he encountered were more powerful as well. In fact, there were dermic arts that were unfathomable and impossible to defend against. The 7 emotions threads was one of those. Be it human cultivators or fiend demons, as long as they were living beings, they would possess the 7 emotions of joy, anger, worry, longing, despair, fear and shock. There would be no life without the 7 emotions, such as a rock. However, even when a rock becomes sentient and turns into a demon, it would possess the 7 emotions to a certain extent. According to the words of Tao Lord Extreme Fire, one would inevitably be controlled by the 7 emotions threads as long as they possessed the 7 emotions. Within this massive battle, the more furious, worried or frightful one was, the more 7 emotions threads that would be produced within their bodies. As such, they would sink deeper into their emotions until they were dead. There was already a high-level fiend demon that was minced to death after struggling too intensely and producing too many 7 emotions threads. He turned into a mist of blood without any corpse left. Even his essence spirit could not manage to escape in time. It was a truly horrifying dermic art. The most frightening thing was that Tao Lord Cloud Rain was targeting all the fiend demons by releasing the 7 emotions threads and nobody was spared. How bold did he have to be to attempt to suppress everyone single-handedly? The 6 overlords were included as well. Of course, since Tao Lord Cloud Rain targeted all the fiend demons, his strength was definitely divided. There was still a degree of difficulty if he wanted to contain the 6 overlords with the 7 emotions threads. The overlord of Golden Flames Mountain's body blazed with raging flames and burned the 7 emotions threads continuously. Although the 7 emotions threads appeared constantly, they could not bind his body. The overlord of Thousand Snake Island was already cut by the 7 emotions threads and dark green blood seeped out. Her blood tainted the 7 emotions threads and corroded them before long. The other overlords released various methods and broke free from the 7 emotions threads as they charged at Tao Lord Cloud Rain together. Although the old ape looked sluggish, he was the most intense at dealing with the 7 emotions threads. His flesh grew, causing his body to expand as he broke free from the 7 emotions threads directly. Although he was cut and blood gushed out all over, his expression did not change. Kill. The old ape strode forward and swung imminent violently towards the head of Tao Lord Cloud Rain. Instantly, a blinding golden radiance filled the air. Tao Lord Cloud Rain narrowed his gaze and retreated, seemingly unwilling to take the attack head-on. 2 rays of resplendent light streaked through the air, shot from the eyes of the overlord of Vermilion Cloud Valley. They cut through the never-ending 7 emotions threads directly. Many high-level fiend demons seized the opportunity to break free. Heaven and Earth Snowstorm. A cold, chilling voice sounded and the temperature on the battlefield dipped instantly. Fairy Snowdrift had attacked. Without warning, snowflakes filled the air. Every single snowflake was hexagonal with extremely obscure emblems and runes carved on them. They were beautiful and sparkled brightly. Although the snowflakes were beautiful, they were merciless. The snowflakes appeared too densely and a high-level fiend demon could not dodge in time. A snowflake landed on his shoulder and caused a stream of blood to spurt out. Similar scenes appeared all over the place. The entire world was filled with snow that resembled geese feathers as well as tragic fresh blood. The howls of fiend demons sounded everywhere. Unlike the sinister scene of Tao Lord Cloud Rain's attack, Fairy Snowdrift's dermic art looked more sorrowful and surreal, as though it was not from this world. Fairy Snowdrift stepped on the snow and traveled through the air with her white blouse fluttering in an incredibly beautiful manner. She waved her hand and all the demons looked up. It was a truly shocking scene. Su Zimo gazed at the scene with a yearning feeling. He did not know when he would be able to cultivate to that level. Dharma characteristics were almost at the top of the cultivation world and had noble statuses. No matter which sect or faction they were at, nobody would dare to disrespect them. The fact that Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group could barge into the 8 demon realms and fight against so many demons in a massive massacre was truly enviable. This was the 1,000 demon meet. Right now, almost all the strongest high-level fiend demons in 1,000 Demon Valley were gathered here. How bold did the 3 Tao Lords have to be to venture so deep into this place? Behold my demonic art. The Overlord of Golden Flames Mountain roared and his glabella shone. The dermic powers around his body surged and raging flames shot into the skies, engulfing the entire firmament. Swoosh! The golden flames enveloped the skies with a frightening might and burned countless snowflakes. Fairy Snowdrift was expressionless, neither troubled nor enraged, when her dermic art was dispelled. Swoosh! 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 A series of blinding sword lights flashed through the air. The sword chi streaked overbearingly and there was no life to be seen everywhere it passed. Lifeless sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword had attacked once again. Unlike Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift, Tao Lord Immortal Sword's attack was filled with killing power. Within a few breaths, more than 10 high-level fiend demons who were engulfed by his sword chi were decapitated with their essence spirits destroyed. The Old Ape and the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp had to attack at the same time before most of the sword chi in the air was dispersed. Many fiend demons felt their hearts race at the sight of this battle. Overlords versus Tao Lords. This was a clash between top-tier Dharma characteristic experts of the human and demon race. If not for the birth of the heaven-slaying sword art, this would be an extremely rare sight. Su Zimo's gaze was fixed and he narrowed his eyes tensely, observing every single detail on the battlefield. He was different from everyone else. The other fiend demons merely wanted to watch the show. However, he wanted to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. He would definitely be mocked if his thoughts were known to others. This was a fight between top-tier Dharma characteristic experts. A low-level fiend demon like him would be killed by the aftershock of their strength before he could get close. He was definitely daydreaming to think that he could steal the heaven-slaying sword art right under the noses of so many Dharma characteristic experts. As of now, Su Zimo had no plan. The only thing he had backing him was Tao Lord Extreme Fire. He was still waiting for an opportunity. In midair, the battle intensified as time passed. Although there were many fiend demons in 1,000 Demon Valley, they could not take down the 3 Tao Lords with their encirclement. Instead, many fiend demons were dying instead. In truth, if the 6 overlords had not taken most of the power released by the 3 Tao Lords, the remaining high-level fiend demons would have died a long time ago. Gradually, both parties reached a stalemate. Although the ball of light was right in front of them, it was extremely difficult for anyone to withdraw from the battlefield. Tao Lord Immortal Sword frowned deeply. This was the 1,000 Demon Valley after all. Now that there was such a great commotion here, there was a high chance that other top-tier experts from 1,000 Demon Valley would be drawn here the longer things dragged on. If a grand demon appeared, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that thought, Tao Lord Immortal Sword spoke as he attacked. Fellow Taoists, please fight with your true strength and help me hold out for a moment. I'm going to head over and retrieve what's inside. In the name of my Tao title, I promise the 2 of you that I will definitely repay you guys immensely in the future if I manage to get my hands on it. Although Tao Lord Immortal Sword looked composed, he was getting a little flustered internally. All right. Tao Lord Cloud Rain agreed to it loudly. The fact that he could obtain this promise from Tao Lord Immortal Sword made his trip here worthwhile. Chapter 881, Methods of a Tao Lord. Chapter 881, Methods of a Tao Lord. Dao Lord Immortal Sword knew what was within the ball of light, and he was bent on succeeding for his trip this time round. If he could get his hands on this sword art, he would most likely be the second to do so apart from the Sword Emperor. However, he was very smart and did not tell Dao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift what was truly within the ball of light. He merely said that it was a remnant of Sword Sect. He believed that Dao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift would not be able to guess what was inside the ball of light either. There were extremely few people who could deduce the birth of the heaven-slaying sword art through an universal phenomenon. Furthermore, it was only by chance that he managed to catch sight of an obscure statement left behind by the Sword Emperor when he was browsing through the legacy ancient books of Sword Sect. When the heaven's killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. When the earth's killing intent is released, the dragon snake shall rise. When the human's killing intent is released, heaven and earth shall topple. Through that statement, he managed to deduce that there was a high chance the universal phenomenon was formed because the heaven-slaying sword art was about to be born. Of course, he was not entirely certain either. When Dao Lord Immortal Sword ventured deep into this place and saw the frightening sword intent released by the ball of light, he was finally convinced that the heaven-slaying sword art was within the ball of light. Fellow Taoists, please help me hold them back for a bit. A while will do. Dao Lord Immortal Sword left the statement and withdrew from the fight. Shoo! A sword light streaked past the skies as Dao Lord Immortal Sword sprinted towards the gigantic ball of light hovering in midair. Where are you headed to? The Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp hollered and swung the spear in his arms. Two metallic glints shone in his eyes as he swept horizontally with a monumental might towards Dao Lord Immortal Sword. Dao Lord Immortal Sword did not dodge or avoid and continued forward as though he had not seen it at all. Crocodile Demon, you'll have to get through me first. Dao Lord Cloud Rain retracted his smile and got serious. He threw his folding fan and it transformed into a streak of black light, striking the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp spear heavily. Clang! The folding fan and spear collided with a loud clanging sound. The spear quivered gently and was repelled slightly. In a flash, Dao Lord Immortal Sword seized that momentary opportunity and slipped past. Dao Lord Cloud Rain slapped in reverse and pushed across the air towards the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp. Dermic powers gathered within his palm endlessly. A gigantic palm created with dermic power appeared in the void and arrived instantly. 6 Desires Palm Strike. Dao Lord Cloud Rain said softly, the 7 Emotions Threads and 6 Desires Palm Strike are the ultimate skills of Cloud Rain Sect. However, the 6 Desires Palm Strike is focused on killing. Now that he released this ultimate skill, Cloud Rain is probably going all out. The Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp sensed danger and his eyes lit up as he howled, innate divine powers, boulder form. One after another, rough lumps that resembled rocks appeared on the body of the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp and stuck onto his body such that only his eyes were exposed. This was the innate divine power of the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp provided a huge boost to his physical defense once it was released. Even powerful Dao Lord Dermic weapons might not be able to hurt his true form, let alone Dermic arts. Bang! The gigantic palm descended. The Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp's true form was at least several dozen feet wide. However, he was sent flying by that gigantic palm and nearly fell from the skies. Bang! 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 Dao Lord Cloud Rain's hands continued shifting and a total of 6 gigantic palms were sent forth. Even the voids were quivering. Go! Dao Lord Cloud Rain tossed his folding fan outwards once again. His folding fan opened up and there were ink portraits within. One after another, nude handsome men and gorgeous women were having intercourse in various positions in an extremely alluring manner. The moment the folding fan opened up, the men and women within seemed to have come alive and started gyrating. It was as though they could tap on the primal impulses within the hearts of all the fiend demons. Roar! Some of the fiend demons felt their blood pump and entered a frenzied state with a single glance. A demon panted heavily and spun around, lunging towards the Overlord of Thousand Snake Island not far away in a deranged manner. The Overlord of Thousand Snake Islands' expression was frosty and she killed the demon without hesitation. However, immediately after, another fiend demon that had lost his mind charged over. Damn it! Even with the Overlord of Thousand Snake Islands' composure, she could not help but curse. The battlefield was in chaos. Fairy Snowdrift's expression was even colder. She swept her gaze around and conjured hand seals rapidly, causing frost to spread with a single wave of her fair hand. Frost convergence. She hollered with a voice cold as ice. The void looked like the silent surface of a lake and frost began to surface, spreading everywhere to engulf fiend demons layer by layer. Some of the fiend demons reacted extremely swiftly and circulated dermic powers in their bloodlines to break free the moment a layer of frost formed over their bodies. Some of the fiend demons were slower to react. By the time the frost covered most of their bodies, their expressions froze on their faces as they could not move at all. It was an extremely shocking sight. In the blink of an eye, gigantic icicles formed in midair one after another. Unlike the other fiend demons watching the battle, Su Zimo's position was extremely close to the center of the battlefield. However, at that moment, he could already feel some discomfort in his bloodline. Frost chi rushed over wave after wave. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. If he had not circulated his bloodline with all his might, he would not have been able to withstand the invasion of the frost chi. He was only at the edge of the battlefield. If he was right in the center, he would have turned into an ice statue before he even approached the ball of light. Right then, a warm sensation spread from his left wrist and cruised through his limbs like a river current. Before long, Su Zimo's body warmed up. He knew that Tao Lord Extreme Fire was the one helping him. Don't get anxious, wait a while more. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice was unusually calm. Far away, almost all the fiend demons watched this earth-shaking battle keenly. However, Monkey and the others kept their eyes on Su Zimo from time to time. By now, Su Zimo had already changed his robes. The muscles on his face twitched and his original scholarly and refined aura was gone. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into another person with a brutish aura. All the demons were watching the battle and none of them noticed this. However, Monkey and the others saw everything clear as day. What's first trying to do? The spirit tiger seemed to have thought of something and was dumbstricken with his mouth agape. Could young master be thinking of? Little Fox frowned slightly with worry-filled eyes as she looked at Su Zimo and the ball of light in midair. Solitary Cloud shook his head grimly. Impossible. Even the aftershock from the dermic power of a fight at this level is enough to kill mid- and low-level fiend demons. Master won't be able to get close at all, let alone snatch that ball of light from under the nose of so many Dharma characteristic experts. Solitary Cloud was not wrong. A moment earlier, more than 10 high-level fiend demons were sealed eternally in ice and fell without waking up after the top-tier dermic art of Snowdrift Valley released by Fairy Snowdrift. With a crash, they shattered into pieces when they fell onto the ground. Although Su Zimo's physique and bloodline was strong, there was no way he could endure the invasion of such power. Little Fox pondered for a moment. Most importantly, even if young master could get his hands on that ball of light, how is he going to escape? The situation right now was different from when Su Zimo escaped from the Blood Sea a day ago. Right now, the 6 overlords and 3 Tao lords were present. Furthermore, all 9 top-tier Dharma characteristic experts were watching the ball of light. Anyone that tried to get their hands on it would be attacked by all 9 of them. Even if Su Zimo managed to get his hands on it and release Blood Escape, there was no way he could possibly escape. Chapter 882, Demon's Sealing Diagram. Chapter 882, Demon's Sealing Diagram. In the voids. The battle dragged on with intense relentlessness. During this short period of time, more than 100 high-level fiend demons have already fallen. The 6 overlords were truly enraged by now. Apart from the fact that the 3 Tao lords were truly supreme paragons of the human race, a large part of why they were being restrained was because they had just fought among themselves earlier on. Their stamina and combat strength depleted significantly as they fought against the three Tao lords. However, they no longer had a way back. If the 6 overlords allowed themselves to be defeated with the unknown treasure stolen by 3 Tao lords who ventured deep into the Thousand Demon Valley, the Thousand Demon Valley was going to end up as the biggest joke in Tianhuang mainland. The 3 Tao lords would definitely rise to extreme fame because of this battle as well. Roar! The old ape reared his head and howled, circulating his bloodline to its fullest extent. He shrugged his tall and massive body, causing frost to rain down endlessly. Boom! The old ape stomped with one foot and cracks appeared one after another through the initially frozen voids, extending rapidly. Shatter! He rose and swung imminent violently onto the voids in front of him. A blinding golden radiance descended instantly. Boom! The frost in the voids shattered completely and countless high-level fiend demons struggled to break free. All of them trembled and panted heavily. The faces of these demons had already turned blue from the coldness of the frost during this short period of time. If the condition persisted slightly longer, their essence spirits would have frozen up and they would have fallen completely, unable to break free for all eternity. Although their cultivation realms were similar, the difference between them and the 3 Tao lords was way too great. The temperature on the battlefield was still shockingly cold. Apart from the 6 overlords, the other high-level fiend demons were already feeling fearful and did not dare to advance. Burn! The overlord of Golden Flames Mountain opened his mouth and spewed a ball of golden flames that surged towards the shattered frost on the battlefield. At the same time, he bit his tongue gently and spat out a stream of essence blood that splashed onto the golden flames. The flames intensified and became a golden sea of fire that burned into the heavens. Countless frost shards turned into mist and the entire battlefield was filled with fog. Suddenly, 2 rainbow-colored rays of light shot out from the eyes of the overlord of Vermilion Cloud Valley and surged into Tao Lord Cloud Rain's folding fan. The dermic weapons of the few overlords descended at the same time. They smashed Tao Lord Cloud Rain's folding fan and its glow dimmed. The overlords of 6 Silvermoon Valley, Thousand Snake Island and Confusion Mist Swamp attacked with their full strength. Their demonic arts pushed against the 6 Desires Palm Strike and everything dispersed before long. In the blink of an eye, the methods of Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were dispelled entirely. Both their expressions seemed to have turned paler. It was as though fighting against so many demons and 6 overlords head-on had taken an immense toll on them and they could barely hang on. On the other side, Tao Lord Immortal Sword arrived in front of the ball of light, but he did not dare to advance recklessly. The glow that surrounded the gigantic ball of light was created by the sword chi of the heaven-slaying sword art and was extremely sharp, even he did not dare to take it on with his body. Tao Lord Immortal Sword narrowed his eyes and his hands shifted continuously to conjure dermic arts. In midair, a gigantic heavenly thrusting sword sliced down viciously against the ball of light. Boom! An earth-shaking explosion was released when the gigantic sword struck the ball of light. The ball of light quivered, as though it was impacted, and released waves of sword chi. The sword chi streaked wildly and sliced through the voids with a cold killing intent. Tao Lord Immortal Sword had already retreated long ago, but he returned soon after and conjured dermic arts again. Another gigantic sword sliced down. Boom! The ball of light quivered once more and spread sword chi. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, Tao Lord Immortal Sword slashed down with a third sword. Outsiders could not sense nor could they see what he was doing. However, with his illumination dragon eye, Su Zimo was able to witness everything clearly. Every single strike from Tao Lord Immortal Sword caused the sword chi emitted by the ball of light to weaken considerably and its glow diminished as well. It was no longer as dazzling and blinding as though it could destroy everything like when it first appeared. Su Zimo realized that this could be a secret skill of Su Zimo that was establishing some sort of a connection to the heaven-slaying sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword was attempting to subdue the heaven-slaying sword art within the ball of light. Once the glow around the ball of light dispersed completely, the heaven-slaying sword art would naturally belong to Tao Lord Immortal Sword. Perhaps once the sword chi around the ball of light was weakened to a certain degree, Tao Lord Immortal Sword would be able to barge in and obtain the heaven-slaying sword art before the ball of light's glow was completely dispersed. "Brother Immortal Sword, how is it?" Tao Lord Cloud Rain said with a hint of anxiousness in his tone. At this moment, he was no longer as composed and laid back as he was initially. Although Fairy Snowdrift still looked aloof, she also looked much more battered. The two of them were struggling to defend against the full-powered counterattacks of the 6 overlords and could be suppressed at any moment. "Fellow Taoists, hang on for a little more." Tao Lord Immortal Sword's voice was steady and his gaze became incomparably scorching as he glared at the ball of light right before him that was turning dimmer. He was about to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. He was not going to allow any accidents. As Tao Lord Immortal Sword looked at Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift who were being pushed back, a cold glint flashed through his eyes. He slapped his storage bag and withdrew a gray item before tossing it outside. The item fluttered and hovered above the heads of the demons in midair as it spread slowly. The demon's sealing diagram. How is that treasure in his possession? Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind with a hint of shock. "What?" Su Zimo asked with a voice transmission. Tao Lord Extreme Fire replied, "That demon's sealing diagram is a Dharma treasure created by a mighty figure of the ancient era. Although it's useless against human cultivators, it's extremely powerful against demons." Su Zimo nodded. In other words, this was a treasure targeted at demons, similar to the demon revealing mirror. Before long, Tao Lord Extreme Fire seemed to have discovered something and exclaimed softly in an enlightened manner, "That demon's sealing diagram is already damaged. There's no wonder why he's willing to take it out." Su Zimo focused his gaze. Although the demon's sealing diagram was called a diagram, it was made from an unknown beast's hide with some fur on it and an ancient aura. It was obvious that a large portion of the beast hide was missing with jagged edges. An extremely powerful force must have ripped it apart. The moment the demon's sealing diagram descended, a horrific might spread everywhere. Within the battlefield, all the high-level fiend demons, the 6 overlords included, seemed to be restrained by an invisible force where they could not break free. Roar! The old ape growled deeply and was not willing to give up. His bones cracked wildly as though his skeleton was about to fall apart. The overlord of Thousand Snake Island was the weakest in physique and she coughed a small mouthful of blood with a pale expression. If this was the case for overlords, it was even worse for the other fiend demons. Su Zimo was alarmed and secretly dumbfounded. If this was the strength of a damaged Dharma treasure, how powerful would a complete demon sealing diagram be? The sinister thing was that the demon's sealing diagram only targeted the fiend demons present. It was clear that Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were unaffected by the shroud of the demon's sealing diagram and could finally catch a breather. Suddenly, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind. There was only a single decisive word. Attack. Chapter 883, Fruitless Return. Chapter 883, Fruitless Return. To begin with, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was a Dharma characteristic cultivator. He was more experienced than anyone else towards a fight of this level and could seize the best opportunities. Su Zimo's attention was focused a long time ago. The moment he heard Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice, he did not hesitate and pushed his feet off the ground right away, turning into a streak of light that burst towards the ball of light at the center of the battlefield. This was a form of trust. He trusted Tao Lord Extreme Fire completely. After Su Zimo made his move, he gradually realized the current situation of the battlefield. At this moment, all the fiend demons, the 6 overlords included, were suppressed by the demon's sealing diagram and could not break free right away. Although the demon's sealing diagram was powerful, it was damaged at the end of the day with more than half torn. Although it could suppress the demons present, it would not be able to maintain it for long. At that moment, Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were almost completely exhausted. The moment they took the breather, that was when they relaxed their minds. The only person Su Zimo had to truly face was only Tao Lord Immortal Sword. Even so, it was still extremely difficult and treacherous for him to snatch away the heaven-slaying sword art. Monkey and the others kept watch on Su Zimo the entire time. The group of them sensed it the moment he made his move. Hurry, look. First made his move. Young master, be careful. Little Fox held her hands before her chest and watched unblinkingly with a worried expression. On the battlefield in the voids, the 6 overlords and many high-level fiend demons were rooted on the spot by the demon's ceiling diagram and could barely move an inch. The sudden appearance of a figure became extremely striking. The demons watching at the sidelines noticed the intruder and exclaimed as well. Who is that? He must have a death wish to try and enter the battlefield at this moment. I've never seen him before. Is that a fiend demon or human cultivator? That person's cultivation realm doesn't seem high. What is he trying to do? By now, Su Zimo had already altered his appearance and the black-haired essence spirit presided over his consciousness. His initially scarlet hair had faded as well. Apart from Monkey and the others, nobody present could recognize him at all. Under normal circumstances, Dharma characteristic experts could break through his disguise with a casual glance. However, when 2 spirit consciousnesses swept over, they were blocked by an invisible force. They could not uncover Su Zimo's background at all. That was the power of the Mingwang prayer beads. In truth, even if Su Zimo fused his 2 essence spirits, he was still unable to unleash the true power of the Mingwang prayer beads. It was even more impossible for him to block the detection of Dharma characteristic experts. However, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was hidden within the Mingwang prayer beads. At that moment, the person channeling the Mingwang prayer beads from the shadows was not Su Zimo, but Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was also a Dharma characteristic expert. Although he lost his physical body, his essence spirit had already recovered more than half its strength. With him channeling a treasure that was once the foundation of Daming Monastery, it was rare for anyone of the same level to be able to see through Su Zimo's disguise unless they had any divine techniques. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo arrived at the center of the battlefield. He had to pass through the 6 overlords and many high-level fiend demons to get to the ball of light. This area was also the region engulfed by the demon's ceiling diagram. Although the demon's ceiling diagram restricted fiend demons greatly, it had no effect on Su Zimo. Right now, the black-haired essence spirit presided over his spirit consciousness. This essence spirit cultivated 2 top-tier spirit refinement techniques of the Buddhist and immortal Taoists and was extremely pure. There was no hint of demonic qi on it at all. The demons could only watch with widened eyes as Su Zimo brushed past them. Another human cultivator. A thought crossed the minds of the demons. Only a human cultivator could pass through the power of the demon's ceiling diagram with such ease. Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift noticed Su Zimo as well. However, as the helpers of Tao Lord Immortal Sword, they had to stop this intruder no matter if he was a demon or a human cultivator. At that moment it was clear that Tao Lord Immortal Sword was about to succeed. All they had to do was defend for a while more. At that thought, Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift exchanged decisive glances. Both of them channeled their dermic powers and attacked at the same time. Bang! 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 3 gigantic palm prints crushed over in an engulfing manner. Although it was clear that the dermic power was weaker, they were still not to be underestimated. Crack! 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 Fairy Snowdrift waved her fair hand and a gigantic ice wall rose from the ground to block Su Zimo's path. No matter how weak Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were currently, they were still top-tier Dharma characteristic experts who could kill anyone of the same level with ease. A low-level fiend demon like Su Zimo stood no chance at all. Given his strength, it was definitely not enough to take on the 2 Tao Lords. The suppression of the Dharma characteristic realm alone was not something he could endure. All of a sudden, raging flames engulfed Su Zimo's body and he seemed to have turned into a gigantic fireball that could incinerate all beings. Even the dermic power around him was boiling. The fireball charged to the front. Boom! A series of explosions could be heard when the gigantic fireball collided against the three palm prints. The flames on the fireball diminished significantly. Immediately after, the gigantic fireball slammed onto the ice wall. The ice on the surface melted rapidly. Right as the fireball was about to penetrate, a sword light slashed over at an extremely fast speed and descended upon the fireball. More than half the flames on the fireball were already extinguished before the sword light even arrived. Lifeless sword art. This terrifying sword art of sword sect had descended once again and lifelessness ensued from the sword. This single sword seemed like it was going to sever all life inside and out of the fireball. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes with a tense expression. At this moment, he could not be considered as the one in combat. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was the one borrowing Su Zimo's body with his essence spirit to fight against the three Tao Lords. Buzz! The four Tao imprints on the Mingwang prayer beads on Su Zimo's left wrist suddenly released a blinding radiance. The four Tao imprints seemed to have fused into one as an illusory phantom appeared behind Su Zimo, assuming a lotus position with a dignified appearance. There seemed to be countless mysterious runes etched on his body. Sanskrit echoed all over. Clang! The sword light slashed against the phantom with a jarring sound. The phantom swayed and gradually dispersed. This sword strike that could sever life force had not managed to do anything at all. This was the first time that blood had not been spilled after Tao Lord Immortal Sword released his lifeless sword art. Although Tao Lord Extreme Fire did not say anything, Su Zimo could sense that the current situation had already surpassed Tao Lord Extreme Fire's initial expectations. They did not manage to break through the obstructions of Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift right away but were in a stalemate here. The longer things dragged on, the more things could change. Be it against the 6 overlords or the 3 Tao Lords, they were the weakest and could not afford any change in the situation. This is bad, prepare to retreat. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded, filled with indignance and some bitterness. The 3 Tao Lords were more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Although the heaven-slaying sword art was right before them, they could only return fruitless. However, Tao Lord Extreme Fire had no other choice but to make that decision. If he was alone, he might have been able to take the gamble with his life. However, Su Zimo was here with him and he could not afford to let the former die here. More importantly, he lost his physical body and only had an essence spirit remaining. As such, the skills he could use were limited and he could not release many powerful dermic arts. If they continued to linger here, it would only bring harm upon Su Zimo. Chapter 884, Soaring Serpent Flame Deity. Chapter 884, Soaring Serpent Flame Deity. Su Zimo had a calm expression. Although he did not really have much to do with this fight, as an outsider, he saw things clearer. He could notice some opportunities in the situation. The demons were suppressed, so Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group was only focused on him alone. If he could remove the seal on the demons, he would not be the first person targeted after the 6 overlords and fiend demons were freed. Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group would be. Su Zimo jerked his head up and glared at the old beast hide hovering in midair not far away with a divine glint in his eyes. You're intending to. Tao Lord Extreme Fire noticed Su Zimo's gaze and said hurriedly, realizing something. Although the demon's sealing diagram is damaged, it still has power remaining and can suppress all the demons. The bloodline in your body does not belong to the human race and you will definitely be injured by this treasure if you touch it. Right now, the black-haired essence spirit presided over Su Zimo's consciousness and the demon's sealing diagram did not create any restriction on him. However, if he were to reach out and make flesh contact, the demon's sealing diagram would definitely release power to suppress him once it senses the aura of his bloodline. Suppress all the demons? Su Zimo murmured softly, that's not for sure. Before his sentence was completed, Su Zimo had already soared into the air and charged towards the demon's sealing diagram. Initially, Tao Lord Immortal Sword was worried that something might happen with the intrusion of an unknown human cultivator. When he saw that, he sneered and relaxed. Although the demon's sealing diagram did not possess much killing power, it was Tao Lord Immortal Sword's treasure after all and contained his spirit consciousness imprint. It was impossible for that intruder to remove the restrictions of the demon's sealing diagram within a short period of time. Tao Lord Immortal Sword focused his gaze onto the ball of light and slashed down once again. Boom! The ball of light shuddered and its glow dimmed considerably. Its sword chi was no longer as sharp as it was initially also. Tao Lord Immortal Sword took a step forward and attempted to barge into the ball of light. However, his robes were sliced by sword chi before he could even approach the ball of light. He frowned. He was still a little off. On the other side, Su Zimo had already arrived beside the demon's sealing diagram. He reached out for the damaged beast hide in midair with his right hand without hesitation. Although the demon's sealing diagram was damaged and incomplete, it still exuded waves of terrifying ancient auras. The moment Su Zimo gripped the demon's sealing diagram in his palm, it released an extremely frightening burst of power. When he was engulfed by that power, Su Zimo's bloodline seemed like it was frozen and stopped circulating. A tremendous might blanketed down and his bones and tendons cracked as though they could not withstand the burden. Su Zimo finally experienced what the 6 overlords and many fiend demons felt against the demon's sealing diagram. It was as though his bloodline was sealed by an invisible power. Naturally, the first target from the burst power of the demon's sealing diagram was Su Zimo's right hand. That was also the hand with the divine phoenix bone. Swoosh! A scarlet flame soared into the air. Su Zimo's right hand showed signs of transforming into a divine phoenix's claw. Right then, as though it could sense the aura of the divine phoenix bone, the demon's sealing diagram shuddered and the power it released dissipated instantly. No matter how strong the demon's sealing diagram and how many demons it could suppress, it could not take down the divine phoenix. The divine phoenix was an entity comparable to a deity. Su Zimo gripped the demon's sealing diagram tightly and the flames released by the divine phoenix bone on his right hand spread towards the demon's sealing diagram, erasing Tao Lord Immortal Sword's spirit consciousness imprint on it. Su Zimo retracted his palm and tapped his storage bag. The demon's sealing diagram vanished, put away by him. Su Zimo's heart pounded furiously. That was a treasure. Even if he was not fated to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art, this trip was not wasted with the demon's sealing diagram now in his possession. The entire process seemed very slow upon narration, but in fact, it occurred in the split of a moment. The group of demons merely saw Su Zimo charge into midair, grab the demon's sealing diagram and stuff it into his storage bag. The demon's sealing diagram merely gave a symbolic struggle for a brief moment before it was snatched away. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's expression changed. His connection to the demon's sealing diagram was lost. Damn it! He cursed internally. Roar! Groar! Without the suppression of the demon's sealing diagram, the situation on the battlefield changed. Instantly, a series of earth-shaking howls that were filled with rage echoed everywhere. You guys have a death wish. The old ape's eyes widened with sharp killing intent. He raised imminent with both hands, strode forward and smashed it violently towards Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift in an engulfing manner. The other 5 overlords and many other high-level fiend demons attacked as well. As Su Zimo had expected, the demons were filled with extreme hatred towards the 3 Tao lords by this point of the battle, with many fiend demons on the side of Thousand Demon Valley dead. Furthermore, the demons were just suppressed by the demon's sealing diagram and had a belly full of pent-up frustration. The demon's sealing diagram hovered high above earlier. If Su Zimo had not appeared all of a sudden to fight against the 3 Tao lords, how many more demons would have fallen? Could the 6 overlords have even survived? From that perspective, Su Zimo saved them. Furthermore, all the demons witnessed the moment Su Zimo snatched the demon's sealing diagram. The demon's sealing diagram seemed like it wanted to suppress this man as well. In other words, there was a high chance that this was a demon. The moment they realized that, the demons attacked and merely targeted Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group, no fiend demon came after Su Zimo. Su Zimo took advantage of the chaos to escape and dashed towards the ball of light not far away. In a flash, he arrived close to it before long. It worked. He was already more than halfway to success at this point. Right now, the only one in his way was Tao Lord Immortal Sword. Leave it to me. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded with a deep confidence. I don't care if you're a human or demon, die. Tao Lord Immortal Sword revealed a deep killing intent in his eyes and his hands conjured seals. He was about to release the lifeless sword art once again. All of a sudden, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness shockwave burst forth from Su Zimo's left wrist. A scarlet beam of light burst forth and transformed into a soaring serpent the thickness of an arm in midair. It was engulfed in blazing flames and lunged towards Tao Lord Immortal Sword. It was an essence spirit's secret skill. Although Tao Lord Extreme Fire had lost his physical body and he could not release most of his methods and dermic arts easily, there was a trump card he could use. Essence Spirit's secret skills. The reason why he did not release his Essence Spirit's secret skill earlier on against the 3 Tao Lords was because his Essence Spirit's secret skill could only target a single person. Even if he released it and pushed back one of the 3 Tao Lords, he still had to deal with the other 2. However, the situation was different now. They could get their hands on the heaven-slaying sword art as long as Tao Lord Immortal Sword was pushed back. This Soaring Serpent Flame Deity was an Essence Spirit's secret skill that Tao Lord Extreme Fire cultivated in the past and was renowned throughout the entire cultivation world. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's expression stiffened. His sword art had just been conjured in his hands, but it could not continue further. The lifeless sword art was a dermic art and could not defend against an Essence Spirit's secret skill. If he wanted to defend against an Essence Spirit's secret skill, he would have to rely on the power of his spirit consciousness or an Essence Spirit dermic weapon. Although he could kill this man before him if he released the lifeless sword art, he would be destroyed by the Soaring Serpent Flame Deity and he would lose his chance to obtain the heaven-slaying sword art forever. Tao Lord Immortal Sword could not afford to lose. With no other choice, Tao Lord Immortal Sword channeled his spirit consciousness and conjured an Essence Spirit secret skill. His glabella shone and a sword shimmering with a cold light burst forth. Chapter 885, Success. Chapter 885, Success. The sword that was conjured by the spirit consciousness was a legacy Essence Spirit secret skill of Sword Sect, the Spirit-Slaying Sword. When cultivated to its limits, a single sword strike could slay the opponent's Essence Spirit. Legend has it that back in the ancient era, humans fought in order to break free from their fates as slaves. They fought valiantly against the primordial 9 races who led the 100 races in a massive battle. The Sword Emperor overwhelmed everything in his path using his Essence Spirit secret skill. With the Spirit-Slaying Sword alone, he slew countless experts of the 100 races and shocked the entire world. Everybody from the 100 races were scared out of their wits and nobody dared to go against him. Right now, the person Tao Lord Immortal Sword was fighting against was Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Although Su Zimo was not directly involved, he could still sense an extremely sharp aura surging his way. The Spirit-Slaying Sword did not even touch him, but he felt waves of pain in his essence spirit. Within his consciousness, the creation green lotus swiveled slowly and petals blossomed layer by layer with a resplendent light. 45 lotus seeds burst forth from the lotus platform and circled around the black-haired essence spirit, protecting the ladder within it. Quite a bit of power from the spirit-slaying sword was deflected. The sensation of pain vanished and the black-haired essence spirit returned to normal. Swiftly, the soaring serpent released by Tao Lord Extreme Fire that was blazing with raging flames in midair had already clashed against the incoming sword. The spirit consciousnesses weaved against one another in silence. The void around the collision point of the 2 spirit consciousnesses became distorted and released a shuddering might. Su Zimo focused keenly, prepared to deal with any change that might happen. This was a fight between essence spirits and was extremely dangerous. Furthermore, they were dealing with a topmost Dharma characteristic expert in Tianhuang mainland, the number 1 of the previous Dharma characteristic ranking. The sword fought against the soaring serpent in midair. The sword slashed down and countless scarlet scales were sliced off the soaring serpent. However, the soaring serpent chomped down on the sword and the blade's glow dimmed considerably as well. The two spirit consciousnesses fought in midair and it was a stalemate. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's expression was grim. He had not expected that this cultivator who barged midway into the battlefield would be so troublesome to deal with. Of course, he had not lost yet. The seal on the ball of light was still present and the sword chi around it was extremely sharp. If even he did not dare to advance, other Dharma characteristic experts would not dare to either. Right then, as the two spirit consciousnesses fought in midair in a stalemate, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded. Zimo, enter the tripod and smash inside. This was part of their two-men plan. Su Zimo did not hesitate at all and his glabella, revealing a bronze square tripod. He curled his body and leaped into the tripod, smashing it fiercely towards the ball of light. Tao Lord Immortal Sword scoffed coldly when he saw that. The sword chi released by the ball of light was extremely sharp and even a Khanate Tao Lord Dermic weapon might not be able to withstand it, let alone this battered, cracked bronze square tripod. Cling! Clang! When it sensed an external entity approaching, the ball of light released waves of sword chi one after another. They struck the bronze square tripod and the sound of metal clanging echoed. However, none of those sword chi managed to pierce the bronze square tripod. Before long, the bronze square tripod smashed into the ball of light and vanished in front of everyone's eyes. All the demons were in an uproar. Up till this point of the massive battle, nobody expected such a change to happen. The most bewildering thing was that neither the faction of Thousand Demon Valley nor the side of the three Tao Lords knew who the intruder was. In fact, they did not even know if he was a human cultivator or demon. He could have been a human cultivator. After all, he managed to pass through the engulfment of the demon's ceiling diagram freely. However, it made sense to say that he was a fiend demon as well. Ever since this person appeared, he fought against the three Tao Lords and even snatched away the demon's ceiling diagram, saving the demons in a sense. Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift frowned deeply. In that moment of distraction, they were encircled by the 6 overlords and nearly killed. Tao Lord Immortal Sword had a cold expression and said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoists, please hold on a while longer and leave things here to me. Don't worry, there's so many of us here. There's no way he can escape." To Tao Lord Immortal Sword, even though Su Zimo could enter the ball of light, the latter wouldn't be able to obtain the heaven-slaying sword art. The ball of light was wrapped by boundless sword chi both inside and outside. Hidden within the tripod, unwilling to expose his appearance, Su Zimo was like a blind person that was rummaging wildly within. There was no way he would be able to obtain the heaven-slaying sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword composed himself and his eyes shone with a cold glint. He conjured hand seals once more and created a gigantic long sword that slashed viciously at the ball of light. "I've got to destroy the seal as soon as possible," he lamented internally. Although he was not worried of Su Zimo obtaining the heaven-slaying sword art, he still felt uneasy. He had a feeling that an even greater change was about to happen. The moment the bronze square tripod entered the ball of light, Su Zimo knew that the heaven-slaying sword art was within his grasp. Tao Lord Immortal Sword was not wrong in his assumption. Under normal circumstances, by hiding in the bronze square tripod and not showing himself, Su Zimo was equivalent to being blinded. It was almost impossible for him to want to locate the heaven-slaying sword art within that ocean of boundless sword chi. If he released his spirit consciousness, it would be shredded into atoms instantly. However, in reality, Su Zimo had already located the heaven-slaying sword art before he entered the ball of light with his illumination dragon eye. This was something that none of the Dharma characteristic experts present could do. Therefore, although he was hidden within the bronze square tripod, Su Zimo was still able to speed towards the direction of the heaven-slaying sword art. Cling! Clang! The sound of sword chi striking the surface of the tripod echoed incessantly in a jarring manner. Su Zimo was secretly shocked. If not for the bronze square tripod, his physical body would have been riddled with holes by the endless sword chi. Although the bronze square tripod was already extremely battered, it helped him tide through countless crises ever since he obtained it. We should be reaching it soon. Right then, the voice of Dao Lord Extreme Fire sounded. How do you know, Senior? Su Zimo could not help but ask out of curiosity. Although he had seen the location of the heaven-slaying sword art, Dao Lord Extreme Fire had not. Dao Lord Extreme Fire replied, listen carefully. It's clear that the sword chi around here is weaker. In other words, it means that we're about to close into the ancient sword art. Su Zimo listened intently. Indeed, the sound of the sword chi striking the tripod decreased in volume and intensity. Before long, it was silent outside the tripod. Su Zimo guessed that they were close to the location of the heaven-slaying sword art and sent his spirit consciousness out to scan. Bingo! The area around them was peaceful without any sword chi at all. There was only a yellowed old scroll that hovered quietly in midair. Su Zimo put away the bronze square tripod and surveyed his surroundings in awe. 10 feet away from the ancient scroll, sword chi surged wild and rampantly like an ocean. It possessed a chilling killing intent that seemed bent on destroying the entire world. Yet, everything was tranquil without any hint of animosity within 10 feet of the ancient scroll. There was an extreme difference between the two sceneries. Su Zimo took a few steps and gazed at the ancient scroll that was within his reach with a surreal feeling. If he did not know beforehand or witness it personally right now, he would not have believed that this ancient scroll before him was one of the 3 legendary ancient sword arts. The ancient scroll looked ordinary with a yellowish tinge, not unlike the books he had read back when he studied diligently in Pingyang town. Su Zimo reached out and gripped the ancient scroll. Chapter 886, Appearance of a Grand Demon. Chapter 886, Appearance of a Grand Demon. Boom! Another sword strike slashed down and the ball of light quivered. Dao Lord Immortal Sword's eyes lit up as he channeled his blood chi and dermic powers. He was prepared to charge in and get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. Right then, the ball of light in midair suddenly dimmed and sword chi was dissipating. In the blink of an eye, everything vanished without a trace. The ball of light was gone. Right in front of everyone, the ball of light dispersed and disappeared. The stars that were originally moving with a chaotic trajectory up in the skies faded as well. Everyone within the battlefield was stunned. Even Dao Lord Cloud Rain, Fairy Snowdrift and the 6 overlords who were initially in an intense fight stopped for a brief moment, gazing over with astounded expressions. Instinctively, Dao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift turned towards Dao Lord Immortal Sword. After all, Dao Lord Immortal Sword was the last to strike the ball of light with his sword before it disappeared. Did that mean that Dao Lord Immortal Sword got his hands on it? However, at that moment, Dao Lord Immortal Sword's expression was extremely grim. Naturally, he knew that the disappearance of the ball of light had nothing to do with his sword slash. There was only a single possibility for the disappearance of the ball of light. The reason why it vanished without a trace was because someone managed to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. Right in front of him and the noses of many Dharma characteristic experts, someone managed to get hold of the heaven-slaying sword art. Was it that person in the bronze square tripod? But, how was that possible? Even if that person could locate the heaven-slaying sword art within the boundless sword chi ocean, how did he manage to vanish without a trace? A concealment technique. A thought crossed the mind of Dao Lord Immortal Sword. This person must have cultivated some sort of a concealment technique. Within the cultivation world, there were sects that specialized in concealment techniques. The sect that was the best in them was one of the 7 fiend sects, Hidden Death Sect. In fact, when cultivated to their peak, these concealment techniques can create a divine power. Invisibility. Legend has it that there is even a greater invisibility technique above invisibility that was considered as a supreme divine power. In fact, it was unfathomable and could even hide from the detection of a Mahayana patriarch. Within the world of demons, there were also some fiend demons that specialized in concealment techniques. The innate divine power of some high-level fiend demons was concealment itself. Although concealment techniques were mystifying, they had a weakness: one is not able to move too quickly or they will reveal openings and expose their location. In other words, the person that took away the heaven-slaying sword art must still be in the vicinity. At that thought, Tao Lord Immortal Sword released his massive spirit consciousness and scanned his surroundings continuously, trying to look for clues. Right then, something weird happened. A dark rift split open in the skies with a terrifying might. Complete silence engulfed the entire place as all the demons kept quiet out of fear. The expressions of the 6 overlords changed and they were even trembling slightly against the envelopment of that aura. The 3 Tao lords looked stricken and were motionless with ashen expressions. That was the aura of a grand demon. Great demons were equivalent to conjoint bodies, mighty figures of the human race. The commotion of this place caught the attention of a grand demon in Thousand Demon Valley at the end of the day. Grand demons could shake heaven and earth with a single lift of their hands. In the face of a grand demon, the 6 overlords and 3 Tao lords were nothing but ants that could be killed with a single squash. Suddenly, 2 bright lights burst forth from the rift that opened up in midair and shone down on the area. It scanned the place back and forth like a pair of ice-cold eyes. A grand demon was using a divine method to scan this area. Snap! On the other side, a rift opened up in the skies once again with a ghastly glow within. Another grand demon had appeared. Swoosh! Yet another terrifying spirit consciousness descended upon the area. Against the spirit consciousnesses, the Dharma characteristic experts present were like infants. They were scanned from head to toe and were read like books. It was another grand demon. 3 grand demons had appeared in succession. Tao Lord Immortal Sword was not the only one. The 3 grand demons thought of the same possibility as well, that the person who got his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art must have released some sort of concealment technique and was still in the vicinity. However, a while later, the 3 grand demons found nothing still. Tao Lord Immortal Sword frowned to himself. He exchanged blows with the person before and the latter's cultivation was only at the Dharma characteristic realm at best. There was no way a concealment technique cultivated by a Dharma characteristic expert could avoid the detection of a grand demon. In other words, that person was not hiding in the vicinity with a concealment technique. There was a high chance that person was already gone. Another guess crossed Tao Lord Immortal Sword's mind. Suddenly, he recalled something. When the ball of light vanished earlier on, a momentary rift seemed to have opened up in the void where the ball of light was originally and closed swiftly after. That rift. Tao Lord Immortal Sword murmured softly, could it be? Transference. Talisman. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed from above the firmaments. It was chilling to the bones and contained a boundless wrath. It was the same as Tao Lord Immortal Sword thought. This grand demon had arrived at the same conclusion. The wrath of a grand demon could shake heaven and earth. The 3 Tao lords exchanged glances with dim gazes as they shook their heads. The 3 of them were going to be the first ones to suffer from the wrath of a grand demon. 5,000 kilometers away, 2 spirit demons were engaged in a fight within the forest and were injured from head to toe. All of a sudden, a sinister rift opened up beside the 2 spirit demons. Unable to dodge in time, the spirit demons were sucked in by the rift. On the other hand, a figure drenched in sweat leaped out, panting heavily. This figure was none other than Su Zimo, who had just obtained the heaven-slaying sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's guess was not wrong. The reason why Su Zimo was able to escape from under everyone's nose was because of the minor transference talisman. The tear of a minor transference talisman could teleport a cultivator 5,000 kilometers away in a random direction. Su Zimo had just arrived in the forest, but he could already sense a shuddering aura coming from the end of the horizon far away. What sort of aura was this frightening? A grand demon has appeared. Before Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded with a hint of anxiousness as he said hurriedly. Hurry, hurry. Revert to your demon state and original appearance. Compose your aura and calm down. You must not expose yourself. Su Zimo did not hesitate, and the black-haired essence spirit retreated from his consciousness right away, allowing the scarlet-haired Een spirit to take over the center spot. In the blink of an eye, his black hair turned red as blood. The muscles on his face twitched and he regained his original appearance before long. With his refined features, he donned a new set of green robes and threw the ancient scroll in his hands towards his storage bag. However, immediately after, Su Zimo froze up. He was unable to put the heaven-slaying sword art into his storage bag. What's going on? Su Zimo was stumped. This was the first time he encountered something as such. Dao Lord Extreme Fire said, "The heaven-slaying sword art is one of the 3 great ancient sword arts and has an immense killing aura. Although it is not revealed, your storage bag is unable to accommodate it. Even his storage bag could not accommodate it. Keep it hidden under your robes first and don't panic." Dao Lord Extreme Fire said in a deep voice, "Nobody has seen the heaven-slaying sword art before. Even a grand demon won't be able to recognize it even if he discovers it." Su Zimo nodded and stuffed the heaven-slaying sword art into his robes. He took a deep breath and strode forward with one hand behind his back. The moment he did that, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness spread over and engulfed the entire forest rapidly, Su Zimo included. Immediately after, 2 similarly terrifying spirit consciousnesses extended and descended as well. The grand demons appeared immediately after like shadows and had already chased here. Chapter 887, Shocking Truth. Chapter 887, Shocking Truth. Su Zimo had not expected the 3 grand demons to catch up so quickly. However, in hindsight, the tear of the minor transference talisman was bound to leave behind traces of aura. Given the capabilities of grand demons, it was only logical that they could track down the remnant aura to this area. Previously, when he escaped from Dragon Bone Valley with Lin Xuanji, they were hunted down by a divine dragon. Thankfully, a mysterious elderly man from Enigma Palace stood out. Otherwise, he would have been dead. It was also understandable why the spirit consciousness of a grand demon could catch up so quickly. For nascent souls, the range of their spirit consciousness was between 5 to 50 kilometers. The range of a void reversion spirit consciousness was at least 50 kilometers. The range of a Dharma characteristic spirit consciousness was at least 500 kilometers. As for grand demons that were the same as conjoint bodies, the range of their spirit consciousnesses could extend to 5,000 kilometers. In other words, although Su Zimo crushed the minor transference talisman and was teleported 5,000 kilometers away, grand demons could arrive instantly with their spirit consciousnesses. Su Zimo was long prepared for this and traveled through the forest casually with a calm expression. When he sensed the descent of a grand demon's spirit consciousness, he pretended to be horrified as well and paused in his tracks. He kept mum out of fear, as though he was crippled by fear. The fear in his eyes was not completely faked either. Su Zimo was clear that if any of the 3 grand demons discovered that he was the one who took the heaven-slaying sword art, he would definitely be killed. 3 spirit consciousnesses scanned back and forth the forest for a long time. Within the forest, the atmosphere was extremely repressed. There was silence and a hint of spookiness. Even the sound of crickets had vanished entirely. Su Zimo did not even dare to take deep breaths. If Dao Lord Extreme Fire had not warned him earlier on, he would have been exposed right away. At that moment, Dao Lord Extreme Fire was silent as well. He had not said anything after the spirit consciousness of a grand demon descended. His essence spirit was hidden in the depths of the Mingwang prayer beads and his aura was removed completely. Dao Lord Extreme Fire understood the capabilities of a grand demon. They could catch him if even a trickle of his aura seeped out, let alone if he sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. The 3 spirit consciousnesses descended upon Su Zimo and scanned but to no avail as well. Right now, Su Zimo's hair was completely scarlet and he wore green robes. He had refined features that were in no way similar to how he looked when he snatched the heaven-slaying sword art. The only similarity was that they were both in human form. However, There were many fiend demons in human form within this forest, and Su Zimo did not stand out. A long time later, the three terrifying spirit consciousnesses continued in their advance and vanished. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and continued forward at a normal speed. Although he had many questions in his mind, he did not call out to Dao Lord Extreme Fire proactively. Dao Lord Extreme Fire did not speak either. Su Zimo had an odd expression. On the surface, the three grand demons seemed like they had already departed. However, Su Zimo still had a tingly sense in his spirit perception. Not far away, a figure soared into the air and sped into the distance in a seemingly hurried manner. The moment that figure moved, it exploded into a mist of blood by a stream of power, and his physical and essence spirit was destroyed completely. The storage bag of that mid-level fiend demon spilled open, revealing many treasures on the ground. The three frightening spirit consciousnesses returned instantaneously after their departure. True enough. The three grand demons only pretended to leave, but they were still lingering, watching slyly from the depths. The mid-level fiend demon that had just fallen died a rather wrongful death. If Su Zimo had interacted with Dao Lord Extreme Fire earlier on, he would have been discovered by the three grand demons instantly and would have died as well. Although the period of the 36 breaths seemed short, they were filled with extreme danger. Su Zimo and Dao Lord Extreme Fire were in a psychological warfare with the three grand demons. The spirit consciousnesses of the three grand demons scanned through the forest once more, but to no avail. Eventually, they retreated reluctantly. The tingly feeling vanished as well. It's fine now. Dao Lord Extreme Fire heaved a deep breath of relief and sent a spirit consciousness voice transmission. Are the three of them going to come back again? Su Zimo was still worried. No. Dao Lord Extreme Fire replied, actually, even the three grand demons can't verify that you're here in this area. After all, they deduced that you used a transference talisman. However, they can't tell whether you used a major or minor transference talisman. Su Zimo nodded silently. The major and minor transference talismans were different, and their teleportation venues were worlds apart. Su Zimo looked back in the direction of where they came from and said, with the arrival of grand demons, the three Dao Lords that ventured deep into the 1,000-demon valley to snatch the treasure must have already fallen. The three Dao Lords are so frightening in combat, and all of them are titular disciples with dignified statuses as well. To think that they would end up buried in a demon region with a single mistake. Su Zimo lamented with a hint of sadness. To be honest, he still had some doubts in his mind. However, he could not pinpoint the exact issue, he just felt that something was amiss. Hee. Right then, as though he read Su Zimo's mind, Dao Lord Extreme Fire gave a strange chuckle. He asked, are you thinking that it's too easy for the three Dao Lords who are so famous to die just like that? Su Zimo pondered for a moment and nodded. Indeed, that's the feeling I have. Logically, the three of them are the most important disciples of their respective sections. Since they chose to venture deep into somewhere as dangerous as the 1,000-demon valley, how could there be no mighty figure of their sex protecting them from the shadows? Furthermore, the three Dao Lords, Su Zimo hesitated but did not continue. Dao Lord Extreme Fire laughed and continued, furthermore, their capabilities and treasures seemed lackluster. Yes, that's how it felt like, Su Zimo nodded. That's because the three Dao Lords you're seeing are merely external clones they cultivated. Although it was a simple statement from Dao Lord Extreme Fire, it was earth-shaking. Su Zimo froze on the spot, dumbfounded. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and there was only a single thought in his mind. The three Dao Lords with torrential combat strength that fought against the 6 overlords and all the demons were merely clones. If their clones were already this frightening, how strong were the three Dao Lords themselves? It was no wonder why, although Dao Lord Cloud Rain was a titular disciple and was the number 2 of the Dharma characteristic ranking 5,000 years ago, he only used a single perfect Dao Lord Dharmic weapon. At the same time, Fairy Snowdrift did not bring out any Dharmic weapons for the entire battle. At that thought, the fact that Dao Lord's immortal sword and Cloud Rain could be equipped with treasures such as a Dao Lord dermic weapon and the demon's sealing diagram was a sign of how extravagant their fortunes were. Senior, how could you tell? Su Zimo could not help but ask. Without replying him, Dao Lord Extreme Fire asked instead, do you know why our cultivation realm is referred to as the Dharma characteristic realm? Su Zimo blurted a reply, it's because at that realm, cultivators are able to conjure supreme heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Considered as the strongest method available to Dharma characteristic cultivators, they can go against the innate divine powers of high-level fiend demons. Suddenly, Su Zimo stopped speaking. In hindsight, the three Dao Lords had not released any heaven and earth Dharma characteristics the entire time. Chapter 888, Grudge. Chapter 888, Grudge. Dao Lord Extreme Fire said, although their clones look exactly the same as their original bodies and can release dermic arts, secret skills, and make use of dermic weapons, in reality, there is only a stream of purely condensed spirit consciousness within their clones. Without a true essence spirit, they are unable to release their heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Su Zimo was shocked and needed some time to absorb the information. Even without their heaven and earth Dharma characteristics, they are able to fight against so many demons and even suppress the 6 overlords with just their clones. These 3 Dao Lords truly live up to their reputation. Dao Lord Extreme Fire seemed indifferent toward Su Zimo's praises and said, don't forget, before the 3 of them came, the 6 overlords were already in a massive battle and had less than half their stamina remaining as well as diminished combat strength. Furthermore, the 3 of them returned fruitless after this venture into the Thousand Demon Valley with their clones destroyed. It's a great blow to their strength. Do you think that it's simple to cultivate a corporeal clone? Dao Lord Extreme Fire continued, to begin with, cloning techniques are extremely rare. Even if a cloning technique, a clone can't be created without anything less than 1,000 years of dedicated cultivation. In that case, the 3 Dao Lords have suffered immense losses, Su Zimo murmured softly. Dao Lord Extreme Fire nodded. Dao Lord Immortal Sword was the one who suffered the greatest losses. He lost out on everything completely. Not only did he lose his demon sealing diagram and clone, he even promised great benefits to Cloud Rain and Snowdrift. This is a deep grudge sowed. However, you don't have to worry either. First, he doesn't know who took away the heaven-slaying sword art. Second, it doesn't matter even if he knows who you are. An ancient secret skill of this level has no master and is open to everyone. At the same time. Middle Continent, Sword Sect, Immortal Swords Dao Residence. Damn it. A maddened roar sounded from the Dao residence and caused many sword sect cultivators in the vicinity to pause in their tracks and look over. What happened to Senior Brother Immortal Sword? I've got no idea. A couple of days ago, he entered seclusion in his Dao residence with 2 other titular disciples and they have never appeared since. Senior Brother Immortal Sword's friends must also be paragons and monster incarnates of Tianhuang mainland. How amazing is that? Strange, Senior Brother Immortal Sword has always been mature and composed. Why did he suddenly look as cool? As everyone discussed, a sword light that resembled limpid autumn waters rippled over from the distance. The expressions of everyone changed. Senior Sister Qin. Greetings, Senior Sister Qin. All the sword cultivators bowed hurriedly with shimmering gazes, as though they were fearful of the newcomer. The newcomer wore a white dress that fluttered as her long hair fell across her face. With a sword behind her back, she was dainty like a fairy that descended upon the mortal realm. This Senior Sister Qin did not look old and was graceful. Her complexion was smooth, her eyes were bright and watery and her long brows were slightly raised with a hint of elegance. She swept her gaze across and furrowed her brows slightly. With a hint of anger, she chided in a stern manner, "Why are you guys gossiping here instead of cultivating and sparring? Is Senior Brother Immortal Sword someone that you guys can gossip about?" "Why yes, you are right in disciplining us, Senior Sister Qin. We know our mistakes now. We'll go and cultivate diligently right away." Nobody dared to raise their heads and acknowledged their mistakes right away as they bowed and left. When they were far away, everyone looked around and gossiped once again when they were sure that the coast was clear. What's the relationship between senior sister Qin and senior brother Immortal Sword? Why is she so defensive towards him? I heard that the two of them joined the sect at the same time and cultivated together. They can be considered as childhood sweethearts. Furthermore, senior brother Immortal Sword is so outstanding. Even any other girl in our sect or the fairies of other sects in Tianhuang mainland would be charmed by his talents, let alone senior sister Qin. That's right. I heard that Fairy Snowdrift is even accompanying senior brother Immortal Sword in his seclusion this time round. On the other side, senior sister Qin had already arrived before the Dao residence. She had a hesitant expression and wanted to knock on the door, but did not know if she should. A moment later, she made up her mind and knocked gently, asking in a soft voice, "Senior brother Chen, are you all right?" Dao Lord Immortal Sword's surname was initially Chen. However, he was already the titular disciple of Sword sect for more than 1,000 years now. Apart from those that joined the sect earlier on, nobody else knew about it. It was silent within the cave abode. Senior sister Qin waited for a moment and a look of disappointment filled her face. Right as she was about to leave, a voice sounded from within. "Pianran? I've caused you worry." "I'm fine." Dao Lord Immortal Sword's voice sounded. It was calm, as though he had already regained his cool. However, Qin Pianran could hear a hint of indifference in his tone. She hesitated for a long time before asking, "Senior brother Chen, I heard that Fairy Snowdrift is in your residence. Is it true?" "Pianran, there's nothing much. You can head back first." Dao Lord Immortal Sword's voice sounded and interrupted Qin Pianran outright. It was clearly cold now. Qin Pianran bit her cherry lips gently and her eyes reddened. She stomped her feet and turned to leave. Within the cave abode, the lights were dim and 3 figures were illuminated faintly. Dao Lord Cloud Rain curled his lips and brushed his gaze across Dao Lord Immortal Sword and Fairy Snowdrift. He said idly with a hint of playfulness. "To think that you're such a Casanova, brother Immortal Sword." Dao Lord Immortal Sword had a calm expression and replied indifferently, "Pianran is merely my junior sister, there's nothing between us. You don't have to think too much about it, Snowdrift." Fairy Snowdrift remained silent. A moment later, she changed the topic and asked, "Did you guys manage to discover the identity of the person that stole the treasure?" "I don't know." Dao Lord Cloud Rain pouted his lips. "That person did not make use of any symbolic methods or dermic arts. I can't tell his background at all." Fairy Snowdrift nodded in agreement. She did not even know whether this was a demon or human, let alone uncover his background. However, suddenly, Dao Lord Cloud Rain spoke and paused, as though he recalled something. "Could you have any reservations, brother Cloud Rain?" Dao Lord Immortal Sword frowned gently. "Not really." Dao Lord Cloud Rain chuckled. "Actually, that Essence Spirit's secret skill reminded me of an old friend. However, that old friend was a Dao Lord from 5,000 years ago and have already fallen." "Who is it?" Dao Lord Immortal Sword pressed further. Dao Lord Cloud Rain said nonchalantly, "His Dao title is Extreme Fire." Dao Lord Extreme Fire does sound familiar. I seem to have seen him somewhere before. Fairy Snowdrift frowned in deep thoughts. Slowly, Dao Lord Cloud Rain said, "I was number 2 on the Dharma characteristic ranking 5,000 years ago. Dao Lord Extreme Fire was number 1. It's him." The hearts of Dao Lord Immortal Sword and Fairy Snowdrift skipped a beat. Dao Lord Extreme Fire was renowned in the cultivation world back then. From 100 Refinement Sect, he was not only the top weapon refinement Grandmaster, his combat strength surpassed his peers as well, and he was the number 1 of the Dharma characteristic ranking. Lauded as the number 1 fire tamer in 10,000 years, his reputation shook the entire world. Fairy Snowdrift shook her head. "It can't be him. He has been missing for 5,000 years and should have fallen a long time ago." Furthermore, even if it was him, why would he need to take so long to deal with our clones given his strength? Tao Lord Cloud Rain shrugged. I know it can't be him either, that's why it was just a casual remark. Tao Lord Immortal Sword rose with a murderous look on his face as he said icily with a cold gaze, I don't care who he is. If I find out who he is, I'm going to hunt him to the depths of the world and kill him. I'm going to let him regret everything he did in Thousand Demon Valley. Tao Lord Cloud Rain narrowed his eyes and asked, Immortal Sword, even at this moment, you're not going to tell us what was within the ball of light? This matter is a secret pertaining to my sect, sorry. Tao Lord Immortal Sword rejected the question with a casual statement. Chapter 889, Brothers. Chapter 889, Brothers. A month later. The storm at the Thousand Demon Meet had gradually subsided. During this period of time, the most discussed matter by all demons was not the Blood Sea cultivation trip, but the earth-shaking battle caused by the stars in daylight phenomenon. The fiend demons lucky enough to witness that battle were all extremely excited as they returned to their respective communities with pride on their faces. After all, it was a battle between top-tier Dharma characteristic demons and human cultivators. In the end, even the grand demons appeared. This was not something that everybody could get a chance to experience. For most fiend demons in Thousand Demon Valley, they might never even get to see a grand demon once in their lifetime. It was even more impossible for them to witness a grand demon in action. For the demons, an experience as such was an irreplaceable wealth. Naturally, some fiend demons were able to make use of their comprehensions from this encounter and advance further in their cultivations. Howling Moon Mountain. After the Thousand Demon Meet, a piece of news was spread. One of Howling Moon Mountain's 5 territorial lords was of the same race as Ape Chatter Ridge's Overlord and was placed in high regard. The status of Howling Moon Mountain was naturally elevated as well. Initially, there were some demon regions in the vicinity that harbored designs on Howling Moon Mountain. However, they gave up on their plans later on. Naturally, there was a lively celebration by the demons for the return of Monkey and the others, and everyone enjoyed themselves. Nighttime. The spirit tiger hugged Monkey by the shoulder and rambled nonsense in a drunken state. He talked about how he was going to stay in this mountain with Ching Ching in the future and give birth to many children together. Ching Ching glared at the spirit tiger. However, she did not get angered when she saw how intoxicated he was. Monkey and Solitary Cloud drank heartily with large bowls. Both of them were untamed by nature and did not hold back at all. Little Fox propped up a wine glass with both hands and sipped occasionally with a hint of melancholy in her eyes. You're still worried about first? Ching Ching was sensitive and could naturally tell that Little Fox was distracted. She consoled the latter, don't worry, Foxy. First is capable with many tricks up his sleeves. Hasn't he already escaped? He will definitely be fine. Yes. Little Fox nodded but sighed again. However, those are grand demons. Is young master able to escape from the detection of grand demons? Suddenly, a voice sounded in the minds of the 5 people. All of you, come to my cave abode. Don't make a fuss. Little Fox spun around and her sorrow turned into joy immediately. She could not help but smile. It's first. The spirit tiger shuddered and sobered up as well. The drunkenness in his eyes was already gone. Without hesitation, Monkey and the others rose and headed toward Su Zimo's cave abode at the top of the mountain. Before they could knock, the door of the cave abode already opened up. None of them were surprised as they swarmed in. Although the cave abode was dimly lit, the 5 of them were unaffected. At the front was a green figure with shoulder-length scarlet hair and refined features. He was none other than Su Zimo, who was looking at everyone with a smile. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had already infiltrated this place stealthily without anyone knowing. Young master. Little Fox called softly, and she could not help herself but lunge forward into Su Zimo's embrace. I'm fine, I've caused everyone to worry. Su Zimo smiled as he patted Little Fox on the shoulder. Monkey and the others exchanged glances and burst into laughter when they saw this. Ching Ching teased, "We haven't been worried," but there was indeed a little fox who could not eat or sleep every day with her thoughts wandering everywhere. Little Fox felt her cheeks blush and her ears turning red at those words. She whimpered and reverted into her true form before darting into Su Zimo's embrace. She tugged at his robes with her tiny paws and only exposed a pair of gigantic black eyes, looking and blinking at everyone. Everyone laughed even more wildly. Their laughter and smiles came from the bottom of their hearts and were pure and innocent. Apart from the joy of teasing Little Fox, they were also delighted at the sight of Su Zimo safe and sound. Initially, Su Zimo wanted to say something to everyone. However, he could not bring himself to do it when he saw their smiles. "How have you guys been for the past month?" A moment later, Su Zimo asked, "Has there been anyone who came in search of me?" "No." The spirit tiger waved it off casually and said in a nonchalant manner, "Too many things happened at the Thousand Demon Meet. Nobody is even bothered about you anymore. First, do you know that the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak who hunted you down was killed?" The spirit tiger said in a mysterious manner with a gloating expression. Solitary Cloud nodded as well. Levitating Goat Peak is in chaos with everyone fighting for the status of the Overlord. There are also many fiend demons creating a fuss saying that they want to head to the cultivation world and seek revenge for their fallen overlord. Revenge in the cultivation world? Su Zimo raised his brows perplexedly. "That's right." The spirit tiger replied, "The demons claim that the overlord of Levitating Goat Peak was killed by the 3 Dharma characteristic Tao lords." Haha. Su Zimo could not help but laugh. His amusement was understandable. The arrival of the 3 Tao lords was way too coincidental and they took the blame for him. After all, even if anybody racked their minds, none of them would have expected an overlord to die in the hands of a low-leveled fiend demon. Coincidentally, the 3 Tao lords appeared in Thousand Demon Valley to vie for the treasure and even fought against all the demons. It was clear who the killers were. Even if Su Zimo were to come clean right now, nobody would believe him. Everyone would merely think that he was trying to brag with nonsensical claims. The 6 of them conversed for a long time, but there was a strange feeling in the air. There was a hint of departure sorrow amidst their joyful chatter. Gradually, everyone went silent. Finally, Monkey was the first to break the silence and asked, "You're going to leave?" "Yes." Su Zimo did not hide the fact and nodded. "I've got kin and old friends back in the cultivation world. I've stayed here for 100 years and I've missed them, so I want to visit them. Furthermore, there's something that I have to do." The thing that Su Zimo was referring to was escorting Tao Lord Extreme Fire back to 100 Refinement Sect safely. Tao Lord Extreme Fire saved Su Zimo's life twice and imparted immense knowledge to the latter. To Su Zimo, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was like a teacher and a friend. This was something that he had to do no matter what. Monkey and the others did not object. They knew that Su Zimo would not change his mind once he decided on something. The spirit tiger patted his chest. "First, we're brothers and we shall stick together. We'll follow you everywhere. At the most, you can tell everyone that we're your spirit beast pets." Monkey nodded as well. "Life is only enjoyable when we are together. Otherwise, it's meaningless even if we rule over this mountain." Ching Ching and Little Fox nodded in agreement as well. Su Zimo felt his nose turn stuffy when he looked at everyone. In fact, his eyes reddened also. Fiend demons were faced with immense danger within the cultivation world. The spirit tiger knew that fact as well. However, he did not hesitate and was even willing to lower his status to be referred to as a spirit beast pet. Monkey's dream had always been to become the king of a mountain and rule over it completely. Right now, he had accomplished it. However, for the sake of their brotherhood, he was willing to give that up. Although Su Zimo had many thoughts on his mind, he could not bring himself to say them. A sigh sounded within the Mingwang prayer beads. Even Tao Lord Extreme Fire could not help but acknowledge that although they were of different races, these demons were true and sincere. These were truly relationships worth keeping and fighting to the death for. Chapter 890, Departure, Return. Chapter 890, Departure, Return. A long silence later, Su Zimo finally spoke. I'm going to return to the cultivation world alone this time round. None of you are to follow me. Right as Monkey, the spirit tiger and everyone else wanted to speak, Su Zimo waved it off and interrupted. Listen to me first. Apart from visiting old friends, I've got an important matter to attend to in the cultivation world. It's inconvenient for me to reveal my identity or travel with you guys. No matter what, Su Zimo's identity was still way too sensitive. 100 Refinement Sect was within the Middle Continent. The Middle Continent was a great region where the culture of cultivation was the most advanced in Tianhuang mainland. There were countless sects and experts. Xiaoning was in Elixir Yang sect, Ling Rou was in Thousand Cranes sect, and the 4 unorthodox groups were in the Middle Continent as well. Su Zimo had deep feuds with Chaos Essence sect and Zephyr Thunder Palace, and both of them were in the Middle Continent too. Super sects had strong foundations and many ears and eyes. Su Zimo did not mind being targeted by those super sects if he had returned to the Middle Continent alone. However, it would be too late for regrets if Tao Lord Extreme Fire was implicated. Therefore, it was inconvenient for him to expose his identity before Tao Lord Extreme Fire was escorted back to 100 Refinement Sect safely. The battle in Myriad Phenomenon City shocked the entire cultivation world, and it was no secret that he was sworn siblings with Monkey and the others. If he traveled with Monkey and the others, their presence would be obvious. If they were spotted, it would be easy to expose his identity even if he altered his appearance. Master, I'll follow you. Solitary Clouds said, the human cultivators out there have never seen me before. I can help to ensure your safety when I'm by your side too. It's fine. Su Zimo shook his head. I'm a little worried about things here after I leave. You can help to hold the fort by staying behind. Monkey and the others were still low-level fiend demons, and it was inevitable that others would harbor designs on their positions as territorial lords. Although they had the backing of Ape Chatter Ridge's Overlord, there was no guarantee that there won't be a lunatic attempting anything crazy. After all, Howling Moon Mountain's territory had expanded rapidly for 100 years and many demons were killed. It was only normal for them to have foes. Solitary Cloud's eyes dimmed with a hint of disappointment. He agreed to be Su Zimo's mount wholeheartedly, wanting to grow with the latter and eventually evolve into a true dragon. But now, with Su Zimo's departure, his cultivation was going to be bottlenecked once again. Su Zimo noticed Solitary Cloud's expression and said after a brief silence, once Monkey and the others break through to become mid-level fiend demons and are able to solidify their positions as territorial lords, you can come and look for me at that time if you still wish to do so. Actually, Su Zimo's decision was also an option for Solitary Cloud to leave if the latter wanted to. After all, he was not really a dragon. Although Solitary Cloud put down his dignity to follow Su Zimo, there was no guarantee that he would be able to evolve into a true dragon. Solitary Cloud could understand what Su Zimo was implying and fell into deep thoughts. Finally, Su Zimo rose after leaving a few more reminders. I'll be leaving now, there's no need to send me off. Although he finished his sentence, he stood motionlessly on the spot, as though he was waiting for something. A moment later, there was still no activity. Su Zimo smiled exasperatedly and caressed the tiny head tucked in his robes in front of his chest gently. How long more are you going to pretend to be asleep? You're still not coming out? Humph. Little Fox harumphed dejectedly and shrugged her head, glaring at Su Zimo begrudgingly. Young master, just let me follow you. I guarantee that no one will recognize me in this form. No can do, come out. Su Zimo smiled and shook his head, his tone was resolute. Filled with disappointment, Little Fox crawled out from Su Zimo's robes reluctantly and moved extremely slowly bit by bit. Su Zimo blinked and said, hurry and come out. I've got a gift for you. What is it? Knowing that she was unable to make Su Zimo stay, Little Fox was sad and asked absent-mindedly. Su Zimo tapped his storage bag and a beast hide appeared on his palm. The beast hide was rolled up and it looked old. It was incomplete with fur on its surface. What's this? Unable to contain her curiosity, Little Fox closed in and reached out to touch it cautiously with her tiny paws. The beast hide that was initially rolled up gradually opened. There were mysterious symbols etched on it that bewildered anyone who set their eyes on them. A unique aura was instantly released the moment the beast hide was unrolled. Everyone, Solitary Cloud included, felt restricted by a mysterious power and could not move at all. It's that dermic weapon. The demon's sealing diagram. Solitary Cloud recalled that apocalyptic fight and exclaimed. Yes, this is the diagram. Zimo rolled up the demon's sealing diagram once again with a single thought and the mysterious power vanished instantly. He tucked the demon's sealing diagram into Little Fox's embrace and smiled. Don't be angry anymore, this is for you. Solitary Cloud's eyes were filled with envy. All the demons present witnessed the might of that diagram in that apocalyptic battle. To think that Zimo would give away a treasure like that so easily. This can't do. Little Fox only snapped out of her stupor a moment later and shook her head hurriedly. Young master, you have to keep this incredible treasure for your own use. I've got brothers Monkey, Tiger and sister Ching Ching to protect me. I'll be fine. Zimo smiled. Keep it. This item has no use for me. I'm going to return to the cultivation world where there aren't many fiend demons I can use on. Furthermore, I'm the strongest fiend demon among everyone of the same cultivation realm. There's no fiend demon that's a match for me. Zimo was not exaggerating. Given his physique, he could overwhelm all demons domineeringly without the use of dermic powers or secret skills. Of course, apart from that, Zimo had another intention. Previously, the old fox at the bottom of the Great Xian Palace left something for Little Fox. However, it was taken away by Dao being Xian Yu because she tried to save Zimo. Because of that, Zimo had always felt guilty. Little Fox held the demon's sealing diagram and pursed her lips tightly in deep thoughts. Her eyes reddened and bead-sized teardrops welled up in her eyes but refused to fall. Zimo knew that Little Fox must be thinking of the item left to her by her mother. Don't worry, I'll definitely get that treasure back for you personally. Zimo's tone was resolute and carried a hint of killing intent. Previously, he was helpless against the pursuit of Dao being Xianyu. His wrist was severed, his cultivation was crippled and he fell to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. Right now, Zimo believed that he stood a fighting chance if he were to meet Dao being Xianyu again. If he encountered Dao being Xianyu again, he was going to get revenge for everything that happened on that fateful day. Zimo rubbed Little Fox's head and said tenderly, "Don't cry. Who knows? With this demon's sealing diagram, your brothers Monkey, Tiger and sister Ching Ching may even need your help protecting them." His joke made her smile from her tears. Blushing, she said in a bashful manner, "That won't ever happen." "All right, I'll be leaving now." Zimo took a deep breath and made up his mind. Turning to leave, he waved goodbye with his back facing everyone and vanished into the night skies before long. Wind howled beside his ears and the shadows of trees passed him by rapidly. Zimo gazed into the distance with a firm gaze and murmured softly, "Cultivation world, Zimo is coming back. My friends, my foes, how are all of you doing?" Chapter 891, Samadhi Dao Fire. Chapter 891, Samadhi Dao Fire. Within the Thousand Demon Valley, a green-robed figure with scarlet hair sped with a rumbling demonic chi. His eyes resembled lightning. It was none other than Zimo who had left the Howling Moon Mountain. On the surface, Zimo seemed like he was traveling with his eyes and ears fully focused on all activity within the forest. However, in reality, there was another essence spirit that was cultivating within his consciousness. This was even more advanced than multitasking. A cultivator's attention had to be divided evenly to multitask. However, Zimo's scarlet-haired Een spirit and black-haired essence spirit could focus on their own activities without interrupting the other. At that moment, the scarlet-haired Een spirit was traveling while the black-haired Essence spirit was cultivating. It was not cultivating anything it had learned in the past, but a brand new cultivation technique, the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra. Dao Lord Extreme Fire imparted this cultivation technique to Su Zimo after he left Howling Moon Mountain. According to Dao Lord Extreme Fire, he obtained this cultivation technique in an ancient ruin. Although he did not know its grade, it was extremely powerful and was the #1 cultivation technique used to tame fire. Although Su Zimo had been on the road for the past few days, his cultivation of the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra had not been affected. With a Dharma characteristic expert like Dao Lord Extreme Fire by his side, Su Zimo could get the answers to any doubts right away. Furthermore, Su Zimo was a weapon refinement master to begin with and felt closer to the Tao of Flames. The sacred item of the Buddhist sects, the Siraka flower, had a fire attribute to begin with and was already fused into his essence spirit. As such, he had a greater affinity towards the Tao of Flames. With those 3 boosters, Su Zimo took less than a month to see progress in his foundation of the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra was formed. Thereafter, as long as he cultivated diligently and attained greater mastery of the cultivation technique, he would naturally be able to release its power. Dao Lord Extreme Fire was relieved when he saw that Su Zimo was on the right track. When he obtained the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra, there was only a single sentence on the first chapter of the cultivation technique. The cultivation of this technique is extremely dangerous and a single misstep would lead to chi deviation where one can burn to death from a surge of their internal flame. Later on, he tried to impart this cultivation technique to a few disciples. However, only one of them managed to attain lesser mastery, the others nearly died or had their cultivations crippled. Zimo, take a break first. Dao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded. I'll impart you some other things today. Su Zimo nodded and his black-haired essence spirit stopped cultivating. He opened his eyes and listened intently. Dao Lord Extreme Fire said, the reason why I'm called Extreme Fire is because I've got some slight accomplishments in the Tao of the Flame. In reality, Dao Lord Extreme Fire was being extremely humble. If Su Zimo knew Dao Lord Extreme Fire's title 5,000 years ago, his jaws would have dropped apart from the shock. Dao Lord Extreme Fire continued, the main reason for my Extreme Fire Dao title is the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra. However, the most important thing is to know how to tame fire and release the power of the Tao of the Flames to its limits. The method of cultivating my essence spirit's secret skill, the Soaring Serpent Flame Deity, can be found within the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra. You can cultivate that on your own in the future. Dao Lord Extreme Fire said, now, I'm going to impart to you some insights I have towards taming fire and my ultimate killing move. It was commonly said that one's Tao should not be imparted casually. Be it one's insights towards cultivating or ultimate killing moves, one would usually not impart it to others easily. But now, Dao Lord Extreme Fire had no reservations at all. Although he knew that Su Zimo possessed an essence spirit of the demon race and had deep feuds with many super sects, Dao Lord Extreme Fire was not bothered in the slightest bit. Senior, I am immensely indebted to you. To me, you are no different from my master. In his consciousness, Su Zimo performed the formalities of a disciple induction ceremony and bowed deeply. During this period of time, Dao Lord Extreme Fire treated Su Zimo like his personal disciple and imparted his life's teachings to the latter. It was not only for matters related to cultivation, even explained many weapon refinement techniques in careful detail as well. When he saw Su Zimo perform the disciple induction ceremony, Dao Lord Extreme Fire reminisced emotionally with a hint of sorrow. I once had 7 disciples and they were all rare paragons and talents of Tianhuang mainland. Now that 5,000 years have passed, I wonder how they are now and if they're fine. Su Zimo remained silent. 5,000 years was a long time and nobody could predict what would happen with the changes of the world. A moment later, Dao Lord Extreme Fire composed himself and said, actually, Zimo, with your potential and personality, your achievements will definitely surpass mine in the future. Today, I'm taking you in as a disciple. However, I might be the one benefiting from your repute in the future. Su Zimo replied indifferently, there's no use to fame. It can't win against the sands of time, and everything ends with death eventually. Well said. Tao Lord Extreme Fire praised. It's truly rare for someone your age to possess wisdom of that level. He took a deep breath and said, the most powerful dharmic art I possessed in the past was the Samadhi Tao Fire. Samadhi Tao Fire? Frowning slightly, Su Zimo murmured. He had heard of the Samadhi True Fire before, but he did not know what the Samadhi Tao Fire was. As though he could understand Su Zimo's confusion, Tao Lord Extreme Fire said, the Samadhi True Fire is a flame tamed by golden cores. However, the Samadhi Tao Fire is a level beyond and is a fire that can only be tamed by void reversions and dharma characteristics. Tao Lord Extreme Fire continued, of course, given the strength of your essence spirit currently, you should be able to try and conjure the Samadhi Tao Fire as well. However. He paused for a moment at the back. However? Su Zimo asked. Tao Lord Extreme Fire explained, Samadhi refers to the creation of the three Tao fires, the essence, chi, and spirit fires. By fusing the essence fire created by one spirit consciousness together with the chi and spirit fires, the Samadhi Tao fire will be formed. Su Zimo nodded silently. The Tao fire created by the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra was frighteningly powerful to begin with. If he were to fuse three Tao fires as one, it was not hard to imagine how much killing power the Samadhi Tao fire would possess. Tao Lord Extreme Fire shook his head. This dharmic art can be considered as my most powerful killing move. However, it's not easy to cultivate it. Without 1,000 years of effort, it's almost impossible to cultivate the essence, chi, and spirit fires. Su Zimo frowned in deep thoughts. Samadhi, Samadhi. He murmured repeatedly, as though he was troubled by something that he could not find the answer to. Why? Is there any problem? Tao Lord Extreme Fire asked. Su Zimo asked deeply, apart from the essence, chi, and spirit, what else can be used to describe the meaning of Samadhi? Tao Lord Extreme Fire froze momentarily. There's nothing else. Throughout history, this has been the only way to describe Samadhi. Thereafter, Tao Lord Extreme Fire chuckled. Why? You've got another way of looking at it? It was merely a casual question from Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo nodded. I wonder if Samadhi can also refer to the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Taos. The Samadhi Tao fire is actually the convergence of the three different Tao fires. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was stunned when he heard that, as though he was struck by a bolt of thunder. Although he was a dharma characteristic that had cultivated for several thousand years, he had never heard that description of Samadhi. Furthermore, Tao Lord Extreme Fire could not help but acknowledge that the grandeur of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Taos was much greater than the essence, chi and spirit. He was almost certain that if this method worked out, the power of the Samadhi Tao fire would definitely reach an unimaginable level. Su Zimo would also create a brand new chapter in the Tao of Fire. Chapter 892, Prolonged Homesickness. Chapter 892, Prolonged Homesickness. The more Tao Lord Extreme Fire thought about what Su Zimo said, the more excited he was. Samadhi referred to the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Taos. This was a different level, a different perspective. This was boldness. In truth, it was understandable how Su Zimo could come to that conclusion and comprehension level at the nascent soul realm. In the past, nobody, Tao Lord Extreme Fire included, had any doubts or made any changes towards the explanation of Samadhi because all of them merely focused on cultivating a single Tao. However, Su Zimo's situation was unique. He was already cultivating the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Taos before he became a nascent soul. After he advanced to the nascent soul realm, his spirit refinement was also supported by two heaven-grade cultivation techniques of the immortal and Buddhist Taos. Furthermore, he had also been cultivating the demonic Tao the entire time. That was the reason why he could attain this level of perspective. This was something that nobody in the past dared to even imagine. More importantly, for 100 years, Su Zimo had been researching many ancient books and cultivation techniques with great effort because he wanted to establish a Tao. As such, his comprehension level was far beyond the nascent soul realm. That was the reason why he could speak of something so groundbreaking. He was also the only one who could say something as such. Tao Lord Extreme Fire could not help but say, if your method works, the Samadhi Tao fire won't even be the end point. You cultivate the demonic Tao and possess the divine phoenix bone as well. If you're able to condense the demonic Tao fire and fuse it together, that will become the unprecedented Kacharati Tao fire. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was extremely worked up and seemed like he was unable to contain his excitement. Su Zimo seemed to be in deep thought and murmured to himself, Kacharati Tao fire might not be the end point either. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's mouth fell agape slightly. He was in so much shock that he was no longer able to speak. Kacharati was not the end point? What other groundbreaking thought was in the mind of this lad? This was the first time that Tao Lord Extreme Fire realized he was unable to read Su Zimo completely. Su Zimo wanted to establish a Tao. This was something that Tao Lord Extreme Fire knew well. He had witnessed all the effort Su Zimo put in the entire time. He admired Su Zimo's persistence. However, he did not agree with Su Zimo entirely in his heart. That was because Tao Lord Extreme Fire knew that establishing a Tao so that all mortals could cultivate and become incredible was something even more difficult than ascending the heavens to become an immortal. It was completely unrealistic for Su Zimo to achieve it single-handedly. But today, Tao Lord Extreme Fire realized that he was wrong. He seemed to be able to see an unprecedented glorious era exuding from Su Zimo's figure. It was a great era that everyone could cultivate and alter their fates even if they did not possess spirit roots. Everyone was incredible and could not trample on others. It was the true rise of the human race. Tao Lord Extreme Fire lamented to himself internally, I'm lucky to be able to live till this era. I hope to be able to witness the arrival of that glorious era personally. For the period of time thereafter, Tao Lord Extreme Fire merely focused on imparting techniques. The time he spent clarifying doubts had lessened. That was because he knew that Su Zimo would possess his own unique understanding of many dharmic Taos. He hoped that Su Zimo would be able to create his own Tao. He believed firmly in that hope. Another month passed before Su Zimo truly left the territory of the demon region. The Thousand Demon Valley was extremely vast. Even though Su Zimo did not rest and journeyed relentlessly on foot, it took him 2 whole months before he got out. However, the Thousand Demon Valley was only a part of the Middle Continent. It was easy to imagine how vast and boundless the Middle Continent was. Su Zimo had never been to the Middle Continent and knew nothing about its geography. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was the one who took out a map of the Middle Continent and handed it to Su Zimo. Su Zimo carried Tao Lord Extreme Fire's storage bag with him the entire time. However, he could never open it because Tao Lord Extreme Fire's spirit consciousness imprint was on it. Later on, when Su Zimo knew that Tao Lord Extreme Fire was still alive, he naturally returned the storage bag completely untouched to the latter. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said, this map was from 5,000 years ago. However, I reckon that the locations of some major sects and factions should not have changed much. Yes. Su Zimo nodded as he gazed at the map on his palm and sent his spirit consciousness into it. Unlike previously, this map did not seem large on the surface. However, as long as one sent their spirit consciousness within, their perspective would open up in a vast manner. Any name that was called out mentally would cause the corresponding region to light up. It was extremely mysterious. A moment later, when Tao Lord Extreme Fire saw Su Zimo's silence, he thought that the latter was worried about his kin and said, there's no hurry to return to 100 Refinement Sect right away, how about we head over to Elixir Yang Sect and take a look first? Xiaoning was a cultivator of Elixir Yang Sect. When they bid farewell at Myriad Phenomenon City, she said that she wanted to return to the North region to pay their elder brother, Su Hong, a visit. She should have returned to Elixir Yang Sect now that it was 100 years later. Su Zimo shook his head. There's no need for that. Since we've already arrived in the Middle Continent, there's no rush to meet with them. We should head to 100 Refinement Sect first. The 4 unorthodox groups were located in the Middle Continent and were not far from one another. Be it Xiaoning or old friends from Ethereal Peak such as Ji Qingtian and Leng Ro, it was convenient to visit them all. Su Zimo was not worried about Xiaoning with Night Spirit by her side. His only worry was for Ji Qingtian, Leng Ro, and the others. Deity once declared that he not only wanted to kill Su Zimo, but also everyone close to the latter. That was precisely the reason why Su Zimo decided to kill Deity and engaged in a life-and-death battle with the latter. Unfortunately, the eventual arrival of the Rakshasa and God race allowed Deity to escape. Deity had a vengeful nature and would definitely harbor a grudge. It was possible for him to resort to any means. I wonder how you're doing now that 100 years have passed. Su Zimo muttered under his breath with a cold glint in his eyes. Deity was blessed with fortune and possessed frightening talent. He had also inherited the legacy of the human emperor and created the unprecedented Chaos Green Lotus that was a mark in history. Throughout his cultivation path, he had only lost to a single opponent, Su Zimo. Su Zimo believed that even with the defeat, Deity was not going to relegate into depression and vanish into the common crowd. Up till now, even with the Rakshasa and God race included, Deity was an unprecedented strong foe in Su Zimo's life. That was precisely the reason why Su Zimo knew very well that Ji Qingtian, Little Fatty, and the others were definitely no match for Deity. Su Zimo decided that he would head towards Elixir Yang sect after he escorted Dao Lord Extreme Fire back to 100 Refinement sect. At that thought, he took a mental note of the location of 100 Refinement sect and continued speeding forward after putting away the map. After he left the Thousand Demon Valley, he traveled for another 3 days and nights before there was a hint of human activity. Everywhere he looked, there were small villages with smoke spiraling from kitchen chimneys. In fact, Su Zimo had a surreal feeling as though he was out of the world. After speeding for another half a day, a city could be seen in the front. There were carriages, horses, flying swords and cultivators everywhere in a bustling manner. It was no wonder why the Middle Continent was the most advanced region in the cultivation world. The fact that such a flourishing scene could be seen right at the borders was truly rare. After he left the Thousand Demon Valley, Su Zimo had already changed back to his black hair and green robes. He altered his appearance as well and was now a burly man. Of course, Su Zimo rode with the wind at an extremely fast speed. For many cultivators on the ground, he was only a streak of light that couldn't be seen clearly. Su Zimo's stamina was robust and no matter how far he traveled, all he needed was a full night's rest to recover completely. Another 3 months passed and he was finally close to arriving at the location of 100 Refinement sect. During this period of time, Dao Lord Extreme Fire had quietened down instead. Su Zimo knew that it was a complex feeling. It was a sense of uneasiness that stemmed from prolonged homesickness, worried that something bad might have happened. After all, 5,000 years had passed and it was a long time. Nobody knew how 100 Refinement sect was right now and if Dao Lord Extreme Fire's old friends were doing well. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's ears twitched and he vaguely heard the sound of weapons clashing. There were heated voices mixed within. Chapter 893, Busybody. Chapter 893, Busybody. Killing and fighting was commonplace around the cultivation world. Furthermore, the Middle Continent was a great region with an advanced and flourished cultivation culture. Along the way, Su Zimo encountered many similar fights. However, he had never appeared to interfere. If he did so for every single encounter he came across, he might not be able to arrive at 100 Refinement sect even after dozens of years on the road. Moreover, there were a lot of killing and fights within the cultivation world where it was difficult to tell who was in the right or wrong. Many times, the clashes could have started with a single disagreement or over certain treasures. Su Zimo could not be bothered with all of them. Now, even when he heard the fighting sounds in the distance, he merely paused for a brief moment and continued forward. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind. We are now extremely close to 100 Refinement Sect, and this area is also a part of the sect's territory. Let's go check it out. Alright. Su Zimo nodded and sped towards the area of the clash in a flash. This time round, Su Zimo released lightning escape right away. He transformed into a streak of lightning and arrived before long. Su Zimo looked over. Both sides that were fighting were nascent souls, and dermic arts collided one against another in the voids. Flying swords and dermic weapons streaked everywhere while lights flashed and dermic powers surged. It was extremely intense. On one side, there were one man and two women. They looked young and were all at early stage. It was clear that they had all just advanced to the nascent soul realm not long ago. On the other side, there were 10 nascent souls with their faces masked. However, their cultivation realms were profound and most of them were at late stage. One of their dermic art was domineering and the power of the spirit consciousness contained a trace of pure yang. It was clear that this person was at the perfected nascent soul realm. Once the opportunity was present, this person could advance to the void reversion realm. It was clear that the side with 3 people was disadvantaged. There were dozens of flags planted in the ground around the 3 people. They seemed to be set up in an obscure manner and formed a massive formation. Every single flagpole was etched with complicated formation patterns. Black smoke rumbled around the place where the dozens of flags were planted and isolated the people within from the rest of the world. Under normal circumstances, the black smoke could not only isolate the vision of external cultivators, it could even block their spirit consciousnesses. However, for Su Zimo, who had cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, the black smoke seemed like it was nothing more than a thin veil that was almost transparent. The man and 2 women were trapped within the formation and were struggling to defend. Although the 2 female cultivators were extremely beautiful, they were drenched in sweat and looked wretched. Their robes were torn in some places and revealed their fair skin partially in a charming manner. Although the man and 2 women were all early-stage nascent souls, the difference between their combat strength was great. The 2 female cultivators could be considered as ordinary nascent souls and were orderly in the way they fought. However, it was extremely different for the man. With Su Zimo's experience, he could tell that the man could be considered as a paragon. It was good enough that he was able to contend against 10 late-stage and perfected nascent souls despite the terrain disadvantage after they fell into the formation. If not for this man's bitter struggles, the 3 of them might have been defeated and captured a long time ago. Su Zimo did not recognize either of the factions. He shifted his gaze towards the sleeves of the cultivators on both sides. Normally, the emblems of sects would mostly be imprinted on either the waist or sleeve area of one's robes. On the sleeves of the side with 10 nascent souls, there was a dark flame imprinted. It was extremely sinister and gave off an eerie aura. On the sleeves of the other side with the man and 2 women, there was a gigantic ancient tripod imprinted. This tripod. Su Zimo murmured softly and there was a reminiscent look on his face. The emblem looked familiar and he had seen it before somewhere. This tripod is the emblem of 100 Refinement Sect. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded and Su Zimo was enlightened. When he saw this emblem previously, it was on Tao Lord Extreme Fire's body beneath the cold lake in Song Lang mountain range. Nangong Ling, stop struggling. The only perfected nascent soul within the formation smiled smugly and said in a carefree manner, if not for the fact that I dote on our 2 junior sisters, Han Yen and Ru Xian, you would have died a long time ago. Ha 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 ha. The remaining 9 nascent souls burst into laughter and roved their eyes around the 2 female cultivators brazenly. The clothes of the 2 female cultivators were partially torn. Now that they were glared at by so many gazes in such a brazen manner, their embarrassment turned into anger and they lost their composures. The dermic powers they released almost dispersed and they were nearly captured. When Nangong Ling saw this, he said hurriedly, Junior sisters, don't fall for the trick. Wu Yuan is just playing mind games with us. We're not far away from the sect. As long as our sect mates pass by and report this to the sect, we'll be saved. Indeed, the two female cultivators became much calmer upon hearing that, and their gazes turned firm. Fu. Wu Yuan sneered with killing intent churning in his eyes. Nangongling, I don't mind telling you that this is the Hellfire Formation. Right now, I'm merely activating the first level of the formation, Black Smoke. Once I activate the second level, Hellfire, the three of you will turn into ashes in less than 10 breaths. Nangongling's expression changed. He knew that Wu Yuan was not boasting. They would definitely not be able to defend against the Hellfire Formation once it was activated properly. Even now, the rumbling black smoke in the formation was choking. It was difficult for them to stop breathing entirely during the fight, and they sniffed in some of it inevitably. The 10 people on the other side covered their noses with special veils and were completely unaffected. As time passed by, the amount of black smoke they took in would only increase and their combat strength would diminish. There was no chance for them to escape alive. Nangongling shouted, Wu Yuan, you can come at me alone for any grudges. Why must you make things difficult for the two of them? I'll let you capture me without a fight. Let the two of them go. Ha 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 ha. As though he had heard the greatest joke in the world, Wu Yuan laughed. Nangongling, you've got no rights to negotiate with me. Your death today is certain. He swept his gaze towards the petite, curvy bodies of the two female cultivators and smacked his lips with a menacing laughter. I don't only want the two items in their possession, I want their bodies as well. Nangongling, at that time, I'll accord you the mercy to watch from the sidelines, ha ha ha. Wu Yuan's words were extremely vile. Nangongling had a grim expression as he hopped on the spot and howled with all his might. Wu Yuan, you dog. I'll fuck all 18 generations of your ancestors. Come fight me alone if you've got the balls. I'll wallop the shit out of you with a single hand. Even the two female cultivators were dumbfounded, let alone Wu Yuan and the others. Nangongling's behavior did not resemble the righteousness of an immortal cultivator. He was more like a hooligan in the marketplace. Ouch! Nangongling was distracted by his outburst and a gash appeared on his body with fresh blood oozing out. Fuck your mother. He glared at the cultivator that injured him and cursed, since I'm going to die, I'll scold you all I want first. Wu Yuan frowned before asking with a fake smile, you're trying to let people in the vicinity hear you shouting from the top of your lungs? I'll advise you to give up hope. This formation can block the detection of a spirit consciousness, let alone sound itself. To be honest, let me tell you. The communication Dao talisman you guys sneakily released earlier on was long devoured by the Hellfire Formation. The expressions of Nangongling's group changed. Wu Yuan said coldly, furthermore, even if anyone passed by, they wouldn't know what was going on here. Why would any busybody get themselves involved in any trouble? The moment Wu Yuan said that, another voice sounded from outside the formation. I've always loved being a busybody. Chapter 894, Golden Flames. Chapter 894, Golden Flames. The cultivators in the formation were stunned. None of them expected a voice to sound from outside the Hellfire Formation that could block spirit consciousness transmissions after Wu Yuan's statement. It was rather ironic. To Nangongling's group's delight, the intruder seemed to be on their side. As the one in control of the Hellfire Formation, Wu Yuan could naturally see through the black smoke and know what was happening outside. He took a glance and saw that there was only a single person out there. When he saw that this was a late-stage nascent soul, he was relieved. A nascent soul at the side revealed killing intent and looked towards Wu Yuan menacingly. He gestured with his hand that he wanted to behead the person outside. Wu Yuan shook his head. For some unknown reason, he felt an odd, indescribable feeling towards this intruder. He did not wish to create unnecessary trouble and merely wanted this person to leave as soon as possible. Fellow Daoist, let me give you a piece of advice, don't be a busybody. This isn't something you can afford to get involved with. Wu Yuan said coldly with a threatening tone. Fellow Daoist, we are disciples of 100 Refinement Sect. Please hurry and head to 100 Refinements sect to seek reinforcements. I will definitely be immensely indebted to you and will repay you greatly in the future. Nangong Ling yelled hurriedly. Wu Yuan sneered, I've already told you, your voice can't be sent outside. He can't hear you. I can hear. The voice from outside sounded once more with a hint of mockery. Impossible. Wu Yuan's expression changed and he frowned. This person could not only send his voice into the formation, he could also hear everything that was happening within. In that case, what could the Hellfire formation hide from this man? Right then, the intruder outside smiled gently and said in an indifferent manner, this so-called formation of yours is filled with openings. To me, it's no different from being transparent. The moment he said that, the intruder reached out and grabbed a flag that was planted onto the ground. He exerted strength slightly and uprooted it instantly. The dozens of flags were only able to create the formation because they were planted at designated locations. Naturally, the formation was dispersed with any one of them removed. With a single gust of wind, the rumbling smoke vanished in the blink of an eye. Nangong Ling and the others turned over and saw a figure not far away. He had black hair, green robes, a boorish appearance and looked well-worn, as though he had just traveled a long journey. This green-robed burly man was only a late-stage nascent soul. He did not look special and there were no emblems of major sects or factions on his sleeves either. Nangong Ling's group was slightly disappointed. One of the women was slightly anxious as she shouted while defending against flying swords and dermic weapons around her, My name is Ru Xian, remember that. Hurry and go seek help from 100 Refinements sect. When she saw the green-robed burly man standing motionlessly, she could not help but urge again, hurry, go. What are you standing there like a fool for? A while more and you won't be able to escape as well. Wu Yuan had a dark expression. Now that the Hellfire formation was dispelled and Nangong Ling's group was free once again, many variables were added to the situation. Hurry and take care of them, be it dead or alive. A resolute glint flashed through Wu Yuan's eyes. At the same time, he released a spirit consciousness transmission to ask one of the nascent souls to block the green-robed burly man who was not far away. Kill. Wu Yuan led 8 nascent souls and encircled Nangong Ling's group, prepared to go all out and kill the 3 of them here lest there were any other changes. On the other side, a nascent soul strode towards the green-robed burly man expressionlessly. He conjured hand seals secretly and was prepared to kill the green-robed burly man right away. The green-robed burly man smiled gently to the man. Right as the man was about to strike, his vision blurred and a green shadow flashed, a suffocating aura surged towards him. You. The person managed to utter a single word before his vision darkened. He felt a sharp pain in his mind before his consciousness sank and vanished. With a thud, a lifeless corpse collapsed onto a puddle of blood. Ah! One of the female cultivators could not help but shriek when she saw that. Wu Yuan turned around slowly and his pupils constricted when he caught sight of the corpse on the ground. It was too fast. They had just surrounded Nangong Ling's group but the fight on the other side had already ended before they even attacked. There were no complicated moves. The green-robed burly man merely strode forward and smashed his opponent's head with a single slap. It was simple, clean and clear-cut. Suddenly, Wu Yuan realized that this intruder was extremely troublesome to deal with. There was a high possibility that they would suffer an immense loss if they did not deal with this properly. He raised his head slightly and gestured for the remaining 8 nascent souls to encircle Nangong Ling's group and settle them as soon as possible. With a single thought of his spirit consciousness, he retrieved the dozens of flags that were planted on the ground. Friend, you can't blame me since you chose to come knocking on death's door. Wu Yuan's glabella shone and his massive spirit consciousness surged into the flags as he waved his hand. Dozens of flags streaked through the air and the runes etched on them shone with sinister glows in a mysterious manner. With a whoosh, the flagpoles were engulfed in flames. The flames shone with a dark light as though they were hellfire from the purgatory. Although they were burning, they emitted a chilling aura. Hellfire spear. Nangong Ling's expression changed as he exclaimed. Another female cultivator that had not said anything the entire time frowned gently. With a worried expression, she could not help but remind, fellow Daoist, be careful. This dermic art is extremely powerful and must not be taken head-on. The woman's voice was extremely sweet and pleasing to the ears. Fufu, it's too late to remind him now. Wu Yuan sneered and conjured his dermic art as he yelled, converge. Swoosh. The dozens of flags converged in front of the green-robed burly man swiftly. As though they were fused together, a gigantic spear that blazed with hellfire streaked through the air. The green-robed burly man gazed at the incoming spear and slanted his head slightly. His gaze shone and he seemed slightly distracted, as though he was thinking about something. It's over. Nangong Ling's heart sank completely at the sight of that. They had finally come across a cultivator. To think that it was a brute that did not comprehend danger at all. This brute is way too careless. Ru Xian grumbled, who the hell gets distracted in a fight? How did this man manage to cultivate to the nascent soul realm? The gigantic hellfire spear was about to pierce the green-robed burly man's head. Sigh. The woman with the sweet voice sighed gently and turned to the side, unwilling to continue watching. Right then, the green-robed burly man seemed to have snapped out of his stupor. He extended his palm all of a sudden and flicked out his finger. Swoosh! A ball of golden flames burst forth from the green-robed man's fingertip. The ball of golden flames was only the size of a fist. However, it gave off a flawless divine aura. The moment it was released, it purged away all the coldness in the air. The green-robed burly man seemed delighted at the sight of the golden ball of flames on his fingertip and grinned before flicking gently. The golden ball of flames floated forward and collided against the hellfire spear. Shing! The hellfire blazing on the spear was extinguished almost immediately. Of course, the golden flame dissipated as well. Wu Yuan was shocked. What was that flame? How could a small ball of flame extinguish the blazing fire on his spear? The eyes of Nangong Ling and the other two were filled with shock and surprise. The golden flame of the green-robed burly man was extremely divine and was distinctly different from the flames they had cultivated. However, they felt a resonance to his flame. It was a resonance that could only be felt by cultivators of 100 Refinements sect that cultivated that cultivation technique. That cultivation technique was something that could not be imparted to anyone outside the sect. Chapter 895, Power of a Punch. Chapter 895, Power of a Punch. Although the hellfire on the gigantic spear was extinguished by the golden flames, the power of the spear that was created with dozens of flags was still present and it continued advancing. Anyone that was struck by this gigantic spear would be split into parts instantly without a corpse remaining. The green-robed burly man did not panic or get flustered. He reached out with outstretched fingers as dermic powers surged and he grabbed the incoming spear. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The world seemed to have gone silent. The green-robed burly man managed to stop the spear that was larger than his body in midair with his bare hands without budging a single inch. Wu Yuan's expression looked extremely terrible by now. The two female cultivators watched with widened eyes and their mouths agape. They did not even realize that they lost their composure. That was the full-powered attack of a perfected nascent soul. Furthermore, the power of dozens of flags with countless runes was included within as well. Although Nangong Ling felt that he was a paragon of the current era with combat strength that surpassed his peers, he would not dare to take this attack head-on and would have to avoid it as well. To think that this unknown green-robed burly man could devour the hellfire on the spears by throwing out a casual ball of flame. Thereafter, he stopped the gigantic spear in a seemingly effortless manner. He did not seem as though he had used his full strength. More importantly, this man was only at late-stage nascent soul as well. Right then, the green-robed burly man smiled gently to Wu Yuan. Time for you to take an attack of mine too. Before his sentence ended, the green-robed burly man swept his robes and coiled the spear that was in midair, tossing it back towards Wu Yuan's group. The moment the spear left his hand, it dispersed into dozens of flags once again. Ooh! Ooh! The flag streaked through the air and transformed into dozens of black streaks of light that rang in a shuddering manner. The expressions of Wu Yuan and the 8 nascent souls behind him changed, and their eyes were filled with fright. Everywhere the dozens of flags passed, the mud was overturned as gravel and sand flew. Dozens of flags shooting over at the same time was frightening, and even the weather changed. Instantly, Wu Yuan's group felt as though the skies had darkened. Their visions were completely filled with the black streaks of light that were absolutely unavoidable. Heavens! Ru Xian's cherry-red lips were agape as she murmured with looks of disbelief, "Is this really the work of man?" Everyone could see clearly that the green-robed burly man merely tossed back the spear. He did not conjure any dermic arts or secret skills. This was a pure burst of his physical strength. Under normal circumstances, cultivators that were not at the conjoint body realm were relatively weak physically. Ru Xian had never seen anyone with such frightening physical strength. Even void reversions might not be able to reach this level, let alone the nascent souls of her sect. In the blink of an eye, the color of the entire world changed. Apart from the terrifying burst power, Nangong Ling noticed something even more frightening in the green-robed burly man's attack. The precision of the trajectory and targets. The dozens of flags were not tossed randomly. Upon closer inspection, it could be seen that the trajectory and target of each and every flag was extremely precise. Although they were tossed at the same time, they did not move together and varied in speed. However, not only did they miss Nangong Ling's group of 3 perfectly, the spears even sealed the retreat paths of Wu Yuan's group completely. If Nangong Ling was the one who attacked, he could perform this feat with a moment of inspection as well. However, the green-robed burly man's instantaneous judgment right in the midst of a battle had surpassed Nangong Ling's expectations completely. Could it have been a mere coincidence? If it was not a coincidence, how precise did his judgment have to be? His control of the combat situation was extremely conscientious and was at an extraordinary level. Everyone's myriad of thoughts raced through their minds. In a flash, the dozens of flags arrived with apocalyptic auras. Run! That was the only thought that remained in everyone's minds, Wu Yuan included. The only thing they could do against such a terrifying attack was to retreat. The nascent souls with swift reactions fled from their original spots. Those with slower reactions had their bodies punctured by the flagpoles. A tremendous amount of power surged into their bodies and caused them to split into pieces. The nascent souls that fled at the start barely managed to escape the flags. However, before they could rejoice, their bodies were pierced by something sharp and they were yanked away from the spot. Poof! 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 The formation flags blanketed the skies and descended as blood mists spewed everywhere. In the blink of an eye, the 8 nascent souls were dead. At the nascent soul realm, the essence spirit was extremely fragile. Even if an essence spirit could escape from the body, the moment it was exposed to the outside world, it could not even withstand the murderous aura or a single gust of wind. It did not take long for the essence spirits to disperse into the world. The only person who managed to survive was Wu Yuan, the cultivator with the highest cultivation realm on the battlefield. He was the first to react and released his movement techniques one after another. By now, he had already avoided 3 flags. However, there were dozens of flags. It was impossible for him to escape from the range of the flags. Instantly, Wu Yuan realized that fact as well. His gaze shimmered and he slapped his storage bag, retrieving a black shield. Wu Yuan bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a stream of essence blood. His expression instantly turned much paler. A mouthful of essence blood was extremely precious for a cultivator and contained up to 100 years' worth of cultivation effort. This was something they would not sacrifice unless they had no other choice. The essence blood splashed onto the black shield and sizzled. Swoosh! Instantly, the black shield expanded rapidly with dark, cold flames blazing on its surface. Wu Yuan grit his teeth and curled himself into a ball as he hid behind the black shield. The moment he did that, the flag descended and smashed violently against the black shield. Boom! A loud sound exploded in Wu Yuan's ears and he shuddered. More than half the flames on the black shield were extinguished. Wu Yuan's arms that were used to prop up the shield were completely numb by now. Swoosh! He heaved a deep sigh of relief. No matter what, he managed to endure the attack. I can't linger here, I've got to hurry and escape. The moment that thought crossed Wu Yuan's mind and he was about to get up, he was scared out of his wits when he caught something from the corner of his eyes. Unknowingly, the green-robed burly man who was not far away had already arrived before him. The distance between the two of them was extremely close. The green-robed burly man looked at him with a fake smile. Slowly, the former raised his palm and pummeled down with a punch. Wu Yuan's mind went blank and without time to think, he raised the black shield that burned with hellfire to defend himself. Boom! There was yet another explosion that was even more frightening than the one earlier. The ground shook. Nangong Ling's group shuddered in fright from that explosion. A figure was sent flying and rolled on the ground hundreds of feet away. He laid there motionlessly with blood and mud all over his body. Wu Yuan's face was frightfully pale and his gaze was dim as he coughed out blood endlessly. It was a horrific sight. The black shield fell to the side, the dark flames on its surface were long extinguished. Crack! 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 Apart from the coughing sounds, there were strange sounds that sent chills down one's spine echoing from Wu Yuan's body. Nangong Ling and the others gulped. They could hear that it was the sound of bones cracking. Even the black shield could not defend against that single punch. The power penetrated the shield and smashed all the bones in Wu Yuan's body. A single punch had contained such terrifying might. Nangong Ling's group knew that although Wu Yuan was still breathing for the moment, he was definitely going to die. Chapter 896, Roaring Down the Essence Spirit. Chapter 896, Roaring Down the Essence Spirit. Not good. Right then, Ru Xian's expression changed and she exclaimed, "The hellfire on the black shield hasn't disappeared even when the brute attacked. His punch must have been tainted by the hellfire." Nangong Ling was shocked as well. He knew the power of the hellfire. As long as the body was tainted by it, there was no way to purge it. Hellfire was pervasive and could even penetrate deep into the bones, burning cultivators from the inside out. Furthermore, the entire process was extremely painful. Most of the time, there would be cultivators who could not withstand it and would reach out to grab it, only to end up with injuries all over their bodies. Nangong Ling and Ru Xian looked at the green-robed burly man's right hand instinctively. Both of them were stunned. The green-robed man's right hand was fair and slender with long fingers. There were no scars or burn marks on it. Strange. The two of them exchanged puzzled glances. The other female cultivator beside him, Lu Hanyan, lowered her head in silence. However, she would raise her head from time to time and steal a glance at the green-robed man with a curious gaze. Nangong Ling and Ru Xian did not notice it. However, she clearly saw that the green-robed man's fist had indeed touched the black shield and his hand was tainted with a wisp of hellfire. However, the hellfire did not seep into the green-robed man's flesh and bones to burn as they had expected. On the contrary, the hellfire stuck to the green-robed man's palm, flickering as though it could extinguish at any moment. The green-robed man did not mind and waved it off casually as well. The wisp of hellfire was strangely extinguished. What was this? Lu Hanyan nearly bit her tongue when she saw that. This ability was completely beyond her knowledge. A nascent soul's body could ignore the hellfire. Nangong Ling and the other two were troubled. There was no longer a need to salvage Wu Yuan's broken body. An essence spirit floated out from Wu Yuan's glabella with a flustered expression. His eyes were filled with fear as he fled into the distance. Not good, he's trying to escape. Nangong Ling noticed this and chased after him hurriedly. However, Nangong Ling gave up after a few steps. To begin with, the speed of an essence spirit was faster than his physical body. Furthermore, the two of them were dozens of feet apart and Wu Yuan's essence spirit was the first to escape. It was already impossible for him to catch up. Ugh! Nan Gongling sighed with a vexed expression. However, it was not his fault either. He had not expected Wu Yuan's essence spirit to be able to escape outside. Normally speaking, a nascent soul's essence spirit was extremely fragile and feared too many things. Be it the scorching sun or the cold wind outside, they could destroy nascent souls. However, Wu Yuan was already a perfected nascent soul realm and his essence spirit was wrapped with a trace of pure yang qi that could protect him for a long time outside. At the very least, escaping back to the sect was not a problem. When she saw that, Ru Xian understood as well. Rolling her eyes at the green-robed man, she muttered softly, "Indeed, you're a brute. Who asked you to use so much strength to send someone flying so far away? Great, now he gets a chance to return home." Lu Hanyan frowned slightly and shouted with a stern gaze, "Ru Xian." No matter what, the green-robed man was their savior. How could she say that? Ru Xian knew that she was not in the right as well and stuck out her tongue without saying anything more. Lu Hanyan turned around and bowed to the green-robed man, saying apologetically, "Junior sister Ru Xian said it unintentionally. Please don't take offense." The green-robed man smiled indifferently and looked at Wu Yuan's essence spirit that was fleeing into the distance. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and uttered a strange word. The entire void seemed to tremble. In that short period of time, Wu Yuan had already fled hundreds of feet away. The joy of surviving a calamity surged in his heart as a voice sounded by his ears. It was majestic and divine, like a gigantic bell that shook one's mind. The voice seemed to echo through the world endlessly. Wu Yuan's essence spirit shuddered and the wisp of pure yang qi that was wrapped around his essence spirit was instantly shattered by the sound. Without the protection of the pure yang qi, Wu Yuan's essence spirit was exposed to the outside world. It flickered in the cold wind and his aura turned extremely weak as he fell from midair. When Ru Xian saw that, she opened her mouth uncontrollably as though she could stuff a duck egg inside. Even though the green-robed man did not look like he was anything special, he had done shocking things repeatedly. It was the same for this move as well, an essence spirit had fallen because of a roar. Nangong Ling's knowledge seemed to surpass the two female cultivators as he said in a deep voice, "This is the Sanskrit of the Buddhist monasteries." The green-robed man glanced at him and nodded. Nangong Ling frowned and pondered. Sound domain's secret skills were extremely rare and even he had never cultivated them despite his background. As for the sound secret skills of the Buddhist sects, the most famous was Diamond Monastery's lion roar. However, the Sanskrit sound earlier on was strong and sacred, clearly different from the ferocious lion roar. Although he could recognize that it was the Sanskrit of the Buddhist monasteries, he could not identify which Buddhist sect's sound domain's secret skill it was. The green-robed man moved and was already walking towards Wu Yuan's essence spirit in the distance. He was not worried that Wu Yuan would escape. The pure yang qi outside Wu Yuan's essence spirit had already been shattered by Sanskrit. Even if he did not attack, Wu Yuan would not be able to hold out for long and would die outside. Nangong Ling, Lu Hanyan and Ru Xian followed hurriedly. Pursing her lips, Ru Xian harumphed and whispered, "Seriously, why didn't you release your sound domain secret skill earlier? You made me misunderstand you earlier on." The green-robed man did not reply. Ru Xian rolled her eyes and came over with a grin. "Hey, are you trying to show off your skills in front of us two beauties to attract our attention?" Initially, Nangong Ling was deep in thought. When he heard that, he raised his head and looked at the green-robed man with a hint of hostility. He even stood in front of Lu Hanyan intentionally, separating her from the green-robed man. The green-robed man remained silent and continued forward with his hands behind his back, as though he could not be bothered. However, Ru Xian was relentless and chased after him. "If you don't say anything, you're admitting to it, right? Tell me, have you taken a liking to me or do you like senior sister Lu?" Ru Xian. Lu Hanyan berated with a helpless expression. Right then, the four of them arrived before Wu Yuan's essence spirit. In that short period of time, the aura of Wu Yuan's essence spirit was extremely weak after it was exposed to the outside world, as though he could die at any moment. When he saw Ru Xian approach, the green-robed man said slowly, "I want him alive. I want to ask him something." I didn't release the Sanskrit immediately because I was afraid that he would die from the shock. Ru Xian was stunned. Although the green-robed man's tone was calm, there was a domineering aura that seeped into his bones. Furthermore, she could not refute him at all. Wu Yuan's essence spirit had already escaped hundreds of feet away and was reduced to this state by the roar. It was not hard to imagine that Wu Yuan's essence spirit would have perished on the spot if the green-robed man had used a sound domain secret skill right after he escaped. Chapter 897, Scared? Chapter 897, Scared? The green-robed man was none other than Su Zimo, who had changed his appearance. Unless one's spirit consciousness surpassed his significantly, they would not be able to detect his disguise, let alone see his true appearance. Dao Lord Extreme Fire was the one who wanted to keep Wu Yuan alive. Although Dao Lord Extreme Fire had only said that sentence ever since he attacked, Su Zimo could sense the anger in his tone. 5,000 years later, 100 Refinement Sect was bullied and even witnessed by Dao Lord Extreme Fire. He had to get to the bottom of this. Ru Xian closed in and grabbed Wu Yuan's essence spirit before Su Zimo could. All of a sudden, Su Zimo sensed something and pulled Ru Xian back. "What are you?" Ru Xian frowned and shouted. Before she could finish, she stopped. She saw Wu Yuan's essence spirit ignite in a sinister manner with dark flames flickering. Ru Xian's face turned pale. She could imagine that if Su Zimo had not held her back earlier on, her hands would have been stained with the hellfire. In the worst-case scenario, she might lose an arm or even die. "Don't worry, I won't die for nothing. The experts of Hellfire Hall will definitely come and seek revenge for me." Wu Yuan's voice sounded from the raging flames with endless hatred. "Tisk, tsk, tsk. None of you will be able to escape. Your 100 Refinement Sect can wait for our revenge." Piak. Su Zimo flicked his sleeves and a dermic power seal smashed down, shattering Wu Yuan's essence spirit. This was clearly Wu Yuan's means of self-destruction and there was no way to save him. He might as well kill Wu Yuan and save them some peace. Su Zimo moved his spirit consciousness and collected the storage bags of Wu Yuan and the others. He took a casual glance and did not find anything valuable. Su Zimo picked up the black shield again. The black shield could withstand his strength without shattering and was considered a treasure. Of course, to Su Zimo, that was not something he cared a lot for. He had gained quite a bit from the few battles in the 1,000 demon meat. He had the storage bag of the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak. Right then, Lu Hanyan arrived in front of Su Zimo and bowed deeply, saying sincerely, "I am Lu Hanyan of 100 Refinement Sect. Thank you for saving our lives, fellow Daoist." Nangong Ling could sense that Lu Hanyan was looking at Su Zimo with a different meaning. He could not help but feel a little jealous and sent a voice transmission hurriedly, "Hanyan, be careful. This person's identity is unknown and he seems to know the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra. Let's ask him about his background first. That's for later." Lu Hanyan shook her head slightly and sent a voice transmission, "No matter what, it's a fact that this fellow Daoist saved us. If not for him, the three of us would have been captured by Wu Yuan long ago. We don't know what sort of humiliation we would have to endure right now." Nangong Ling could not refute her. Lu Hanyan nudged Ru Xian gently and sent a voice transmission, "Hurry up and thank him. He saved you twice." Ru Xian pouted and bowed towards Su Zimo. "Brute, my name is Ru Xian and I'm also from 100 Refinement Sect. Thank you for today." Nangong Ling was a little reluctant as well. However, he still cupped his fists and bowed towards Su Zimo, saying deeply, "I'm Nangong Ling of 100 Refinement Sect. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Su Zimo smiled and nodded. Although the three of them were from the same sect, their personalities were different. Lu Hanyan was calm and polite, she had the bearing of a disciple of a major sect. Ru Xian appeared carefree and straightforward. As for Nangong Ling, apart from the aura of a major sect, there was also a pride in his bones, as though he came from an extraordinary background. The three of them gave Su Zimo a good feeling. At the very least, they did not have bad natures and were filled with vigor and courage. Hey, haven't you heard of senior brother Nangong's name? When she saw that Su Zimo had no reaction after Nangong Ling introduced her, Ru Xian could not help but ask. Su Zimo recalled carefully before shaking his head. This. I've never heard of it. Ru Xian immediately revealed a look of disdain. Have you heard of the Golden Core phenomenon ranking? Ru Xian asked. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. Rubbing her puffed-up chest, Ru Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Not bad. You even know about the Golden Core phenomenon ranking. That saves me the trouble of explaining. Pausing for a moment, Ru Xian took a deep breath and said slowly, listen up. Senior brother Nangong is ranked 83 on the Golden Core phenomenon ranking this time round. Su Zimo was stunned. It was not because he was shocked. He was once the top of the phenomenon ranking and 83 was nothing in his eyes. He was stunned because on the one hand, he was lamenting the passage of time. 100 years had passed and the phenomenon ranking had already changed. On the other hand, he was filled with emotions as he recalled everything that happened in the ancient battlefield 100 years ago. Nangong Ling stood at the side and raised his chin proudly with a hint of pride in his eyes. He glanced at Lu Hanyan from time to time, as though he was silently showing off. Although he looked calm on the surface, he could not conceal his delight. He was very satisfied with Su Zimo's reaction. Anyone who saw a cultivator ranked 83 on the phenomenon ranking would be shocked and fearful. At that moment, Nangong Ling felt as though he was the only existence in the world as his entire body shone. Lu Hanyan rubbed her forehead helplessly. He. When Ru Xian saw Su Zimo's dazed expression, she could not help but laugh. She waved her palm in front of Su Zimo's eyes. Are you scared out of your wits? Hey, wake up. Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor and chuckled as well, seemingly with a deeper meaning. However, at that moment, neither Nangong Ling or Ru Xian realized it. Not long later, when they truly understood the meaning behind Su Zimo's smile, they were so embarrassed that they nearly dug a hole to hide in. What are you laughing foolishly about? Ru Xian hammered Su Zimo's chest without any malice. Ru Xian, stop fooling around. Lu Hanyan could not stand it any longer and said, there's always someone better than you. I admire senior brother Nangong's strength as well, but he has 82 paragons ahead of him. Furthermore, there's also the paragons of the previous phenomenon ranking and the previous phenomenon ranking. Ru Xian shook her head. You can't say that. We're cultivators of 100 Refinement sect, one of the 4 unorthodox groups. We can't compare to the immortal, fiend, and Buddhist sections. It's almost impossible for us 100 Refinement sect cultivators to get a spot on the phenomenon ranking. The last time we got a spot on the phenomenon ranking was thousands of years ago. Ru Xian was not wrong. It was difficult for the disciples of the 4 unorthodox groups to leave their names on the phenomenon ranking. Among the 4 unorthodox groups of the previous phenomenon ranking, only Ji Qing Tian of Elixir Yang sect was ranked. Even then, he was lower than the top 100. Therefore, it was rather rare for Nangong Ling to be ranked 83 on the phenomenon ranking. That was easy to understand. Be it the 100 Refinement sect or the other 4 unorthodox groups, they had different cultivation tendencies. For example, 100 Refinement sect valued weapon refinement more than anything else. However, a person's energy was limited. If one wanted to attain success in weapon refinement, they would have to expend a tremendous amount of mental energy. As such, his combat strength would naturally be weaker. Throughout history, there were very few cultivators in 100 Refinement sect who were renowned for their accomplishments in weapon refinement and combat strength. Chapter 898, Who Remembered? Chapter 898, Who Remembered? Ru Xian continued smugly, let me tell you, it's not just senior brother Nangong. Sister Han Yan and I entered the ancient battlefield and arrived at Myriad Phenomenon City in the end to witness the unprecedented battle for the phenomenon ranking. Such an experience was indeed rare and was something worth bragging about. After all, there were very few golden cores in Tianhuang mainland who were qualified to enter the ancient battlefield. In the end, there were even fewer who could reach Myriad Phenomenon City. Su Zimo sighed internally. It was a pity that the previous phenomenon ranking battle was not an honor for the paragons of Myriad Phenomenon City, it was a catastrophe. Ru Xian continued, the number 1 of the phenomenon ranking this time round is extremely impressive. He created an unprecedented golden core phenomenon that swept through all his peers with unparalleled might. He's an unprecedented monster incarnate. That's right. He even left his name on the ancient phenomenon stele. The tides were turbulent and in 100 years, countless paragons would rise and shine. Su Zimo's expression was calm and his eyes flashed with a glint. He wondered how many people still remembered him after 100 years have passed. Even though Yi Tiancheng is powerful, he is not unprecedented. Lu Hanyan shook her head. I heard that the previous phenomenon rankings top and second place both created a new phenomenon. Furthermore, there are many legends about the previous phenomenon rankings number 1. He seems to be even stronger than Yi Tiancheng. Tisk. Ru Xian pouted in disdain. Sister, you said it yourself. The previous phenomenon rankings number 1 was a legend. What's a legend? It's fake. The more rumors spread, the more fake they become. Nangong Ling nodded as well. We've never seen what the top of the previous phenomenon ranking looked like and we don't know how fake the stories are either. However, we witnessed the combat strength of Yi Tiancheng with our own eyes. It's truly unprecedented. We've all entered Nascent Soul Realm. He must have entered Nascent Soul Realm long ago as well. Given his combat strength, he will definitely be able to sweep through all perfected lords and be invincible in the Nascent Soul Realm. From the looks of it, Nangong Ling and the other 2 clearly knew nothing about what happened in Myriad Phenomenon City 100 years ago. Or rather, even if they knew, they only knew a limited amount and thought that it was just a legend. Su Zimo's eyes flashed with mockery. He could understand that. After all, the major sects and factions of Myriad Phenomenon City were massacred by the foreign races 100 years ago. Countless paragons were killed and almost all of them were wiped out. In the end, he was the one who saved everyone. Furthermore, in the eyes of everyone, he was of a different race. This was a disgraceful matter. In fact, it could even be said that the major sects and factions lost all face in front of the Rakshasa and God race. After returning to Tianhuang mainland, it was only logical for them to keep this a secret. Because of that, the truth was concealed. That was merely 100 years. If it was 500 years later or 1,000 years later, who would remember that there was a figure in Myriad Phenomenon City who fought to the death and protected the last bit of dignity of the human race without retreating at all? Who would remember that there was once a person who managed to turn the tides single-handedly? Who would remember that there was once a figure that stood on the corpse of an alien race with an unparalleled aura and let out a heroic roar? The emperors are not here, but I am. As time passed, everything would eventually be buried until there were no traces left. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and asked in a seemingly casual manner, you guys seem to look down on the previous phenomenon rankings top spot? That's normal. Ru Xian shrugged. There's only 2 possibilities if there's no news of that person within 100 years. First, he's already dead. Furthermore, he died silently. It's clear that he's nothing much. The paragons that died prematurely would eventually be forgotten without exception. Su Zimo asked, what's the second possibility? Ru Xian said, "Second, he's timid as a mouse and has already gone into hiding." Su Zimo frowned, not really understanding what she was saying. Ru Xian continued, 80 years ago, Deity, who was ranked second on the previous phenomenon ranking, declared that he wanted to engage in a life and death battle with this man. However, he did not respond at all. Later on, Deity made a move and I heard that he nearly beat that person's best friend to death. Even then, that person did not even show himself. If he's not as cowardly as a rat, what is he? As she spoke, she shuddered and could not continue. Instinctively, she raised her head and saw a cold gaze and expression on Su Zimo's face. He exuded a shuddering aura that was indescribably terrifying. Su Zimo's hands were stained with the blood of paragons and monster incarnates. It was definitely not a fluke that he had accumulated corpses along the way. He even dared to kill an overlord. How could someone as strong as Ru Xian withstand his wrath? When the human's killing intent is released, heaven and earth shall topple. Ah! Ru Xian shrieked in shock and retreated a few steps. Nangong Ling and Lu Hanyan's expressions changed drastically as well. They felt their hearts skip a beat as though a catastrophe was about to befall them. Nangong Ling slapped his storage bag and pulled out a long saber with a clang, waiting intently. Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor and knew that he had lost his composure. He retracted his killing intent and that shuddering aura vanished as well. Ru Xian and the other two were stunned. In the blink of an eye, the green-robed man had returned to his normal self. That sense of trepidation earlier on seemed like an illusion. Feeling aggrieved, Ru Xian came before Su Zimo and hollered, "Why are you glaring at me? Why are you being so fierce to me?" Su Zimo was silent for a moment before saying, "I'm sorry. I was thinking about something else and lost my composure." Humph. Ru Xian rolled her eyes, seemingly unappreciative. Su Zimo did not console her either and asked, "May I ask who Deity injured?" "I don't know." Ru Xian snapped and turned away. Lu Hanyan saw that the situation was a little tense and hurriedly continued, "I heard that Tomb Sect's successor was injured along with a fellow Daoist surnamed Ji from Elixir Yang sect." Lu Hanyan stole a glance. When she saw Su Zimo's expressionless face, she continued, "That fellow Daoist surnamed Ji was saved by Elixir Yang sect's elixir and did not die. I heard that the fellow Daoist of Tomb Sect escaped as well. However, his whereabouts are unknown and his fate is unknown." Lu Hanyan thought for a moment and probed, "Fellow Daoist, you know them?" Su Zimo remained silent and did not reply. Dao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in his mind. "Don't worry, if your friend were to obtain Tomb Sect's true inheritance, he wouldn't die so easily. Furthermore, after those two incidents, the others will definitely be locked up by their sections. No matter how strong Deity is, he wouldn't dare to kill in the territory of those major sections." When Lu Hanyan saw that Su Zimo did not reply, she did not get angry and continued, "I heard that Deity wanted to kill a few more people initially. However, they were locked up by their sects and Deity lost his chance." Su Zimo finally relaxed. As long as his old friends were fine, his return was not too late. Chapter 899, How Dare He? Chapter 899, How Dare He? After a moment of silence, Lu Hanyan smiled gently and looked up at Su Zimo with watery eyes. "We've digressed. We still don't know your name, fellow Daoist." Su Zimo pondered for a moment. "My name is Mo Ling." That was a name that he used back when he was a weapon refinement master and was famous in the capital of Great Zhou. Now that he was about to arrive at the largest weapon refinement sect in Tianhuang mainland and was using that name, it was rather interesting. Mo Ling. Both Lu Hanyan and Ru Xian thought to themselves but realized that they had never heard of it before. Back then, Mo Ling had only made a name for himself in the Great Zhou dynasty. Even the cultivators of the North region had not heard of him, let alone the cultivators of the Middle Continent. 100 years later, there were even fewer people who could link Su Zimo and Mo Ling together. Nangong Ling's gaze flickered and he asked in a seemingly casual manner, "Fellow Daoist, you don't seem weak. Which sect are you from?" Su Zimo could tell that Nangong Ling was testing him. However, he was prepared and replied indifferently with a calm expression, "I'm an itinerant cultivator without any sect or faction." Nangong Ling frowned. There's something odd about his identity. He's definitely not telling the truth. Nangong Ling secretly sent a voice transmission to Lu Hanyan and Ru Xian. Ru Xian replied hurriedly, "I had the same feeling. How could he know about our secret Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra if he's not from any sect or faction?" The Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra was no casual cultivation technique. There were many lineages within 100 Refinements sect, but they were the only ones qualified to cultivate. Not to mention itinerant cultivators from other sects, even cultivators from other factions were not qualified to cultivate. Although there were not many cultivators in Nangong Ling's lineage, their status in 100 Refinements sect was extremely high. The reason why their lineage was called Extreme Fire was to commemorate their Grandmaster. The Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra was passed down by their founder master and was not to be underestimated. Even if a cultivator could obtain the mental cultivation technique, few of them would be able to cultivate it successfully. How could Nangong Ling and the other two not be shocked and they met an unknown cultivator outside the sect who knew the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra? At the same time, Dao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind, "Ask them about Hellfire Hall." Su Zimo coughed gently and asked, "I heard that man mention that he was from Hellfire Hall. What's their background?" Nangong Ling and the other two were surprised when they heard that question. Ru Xian was straightforward and glared at him. "You've never even heard of Hellfire Hall?" "I'm not a cultivator of the Middle Continent and am from another region. I really don't know the name of Hellfire Hall." Su Zimo raised his brow and said deliberately, "Why? Is Hellfire Hall famous and more powerful than 100 Refinement sect?" As though someone had stepped on her tail, Ru Xian jumped and shouted, "How is that possible?" She said in a huff, "Hellfire Hall is a traitor of our 100 Refinement sect. They've only made a name for themselves in recent years. How can they compare to us?" "Traitor?" Su Zimo asked, "Who betrayed 100 Refinement sect?" This question was naturally asked by Dao Lord Extreme Fire. Nangong Ling and the other two were stunned by the question and a hint of confusion flashed through their eyes. It was clear that they did not know much about this. Ru Xian gritted her teeth. "In any case, he's definitely a traitor. I heard that the capabilities of the Master of Hellfire Hall were learned from our 100 Refinement sect." When Su Zimo saw that Nangong Ling and the other two were young and probably did not know about these ancient secrets, he did not continue asking. Su Zimo thought for a moment and asked again, "Why did that cultivator of Hellfire Hall chase you here despite the dangers?" "It's naturally because..." Ru Xian was about to reply when a deep voice sounded in her mind, interrupting her. Nangong Ling hurriedly sent a voice transmission. "We don't know his identity and background. Don't tell him everything. You can't judge a book by its cover. In the cultivation world, sinister and cunning people are everywhere. We have to be careful and not get betrayed without knowing." Ru Xian stuck out her tongue and looked at Su Zimo warily with a guarded expression. Su Zimo smiled nonchalantly. "It's fine if it's inconvenient to talk about it." For some reason, Lu Hanyan had an indescribable trust in Su Zimo in her heart. This man had a rough appearance and could not be considered handsome. However, he was open and honest. Every single move he made exuded an unrestrained aura. Furthermore, that person had just saved them. The reason why the people of Hellfire Hall are chasing us is because of the 2 items we just obtained. Lu Hanyan ignored Nangong Ling's gaze and said, "Meteorite and Malevolent Earth Black Bronze. These were 2 top-grade materials for refining dermic weapons." After Dao Lord Extreme Fire's intense revision during this period of time, the origin of the 2 materials flashed through his mind. As the name suggested, meteorites were stars that fell from the skies. The stars in the heavens were massive and every single one of them possessed an extremely terrifying power. According to the ancient records, there were ancient emperors who used supreme divine powers to pluck the stars. Under the vast night sky, the Tao fire burned with an emperor weapon as tribute, causing the world to tremble. After the death of the star, its power weakened continuously. By the time it fell to the ground, there was barely any power left, be it in terms of size or power. Even so, the heaven and earth powers contained within the meteorites were extremely pure and were still top-grade materials for refining dermic weapons. Tao Lord Extreme Fire had once mentioned to Su Zimo that if he used meteorites to refine dermic weapons, he might even have a chance of creating a connate dermic weapon with 6 dermic patterns. As for the malevolent earth black bronze, it was also a top-grade treasure with rich heaven and earth powers. Black bronze was a rare spirit material to begin with. If he wanted to condense a small piece of malevolent earth black bronze, he would have to nourish it for 10,000 years in a place surrounded by malevolent earth. It could be said that the two materials were priceless and the appearance of the two materials alone would attract many experts to fight for them. Lu Hanyan seemed to have thought of something and there was a hint of worry between her brows. After some time, our 100 Refinement sect will have a weapon refinement battle with Hellfire Hall. At that time, all the major sects will be present and 100 Refinement sect won't be able to afford to lose. Su Zimo nodded. Hellfire Hall had mobilized a large force to kill Nangongling and the other two and snatch away the 2 top-grade spirit materials so that they would gain a slight advantage in the upcoming weapon refinement competition. Noticing the worry in Lu Hanyan's eyes, Su Zimo could not help but ask, "You've already saved the 2 spirit materials. Are you still worried?" Lu Hanyan nodded and said, "The person that Hellfire Hall sent out for the competition is a genius in weapon refinement. He once forged a connate perfected Lord Dermic weapon personally. I can't compare to him in that aspect. It was way too difficult to refine connate dermic weapons." Prior to this, even with his spirit perception, Su Zimo could only create perfect-grade spirit weapons. Some of his connate spirit weapons were repaired using damaged ones. It was much less difficult than creating a connate dermic weapon. Su Zimo asked, "What happens if you lose?" Lu Hanyan pursed her lips and remained silent for a long time before saying bitterly, "Among the 4 unorthodox groups, 100 Refinement sect might be replaced." How dare he? A furious voice sounded from the Mingwang prayer bead. Immediately after, a scorching aura spread out as though it wanted to incinerate the heavens. Chapter 900, Grandmaster. Chapter 900, Grandmaster. Nangongling and the other two were shocked by the sudden aura and voice. The Mingwang prayer beads were hung on Su Zimo's wrist and hidden within his sleeves. Therefore, Nangongling and the other two instinctively thought that Su Zimo was the one who gave off that terrifying heat. However, the 3 of them felt that something was amiss. His voice earlier on sounded old and was clearly different from Su Zimo's. Furthermore, his voice was filled with endless rage. What did this man have to do with the issues of 100 Refinement sect? Why was he so angry? It was ridiculous. Right then, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness descended from afar. Su Zimo had experienced the power of a spirit consciousness of this level many times in the Thousand Demon Valley. That was the spirit consciousness of a Dharma characteristic. Immediately after, a howl sounded, approaching from afar at a shocking speed. As expected, it was a Dharma characteristic Tao Lord. Su Zimo noticed that the intruder was coming from the direction of 100 Refinement sect and felt slightly relieved. On the other side, Nangongling and the other two were delighted when they heard the howl. Nangongling said in a deep voice, "It's Master. Master is here to pick us up." Ru Xian clapped happily. Lu Hanyan turned to Su Zimo and whispered, "This is our master and his Dao title is Scarlet Star. He's a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord." Su Zimo nodded. In the blink of an eye, a tall and strong figure descended. The intruder was a head taller than Su Zimo. Wearing a scarlet Daoist robe with fiery patterns that looked as though they were about to burn, he strode majestically. Master. Nangong Ling and Lu Hanyan bowed. Ru Xian leaned forward with a grin and shook the person's arm, saying coquettishly, Master, why are you here? Dao Lord Scarlet Star swept his gaze and harumphed in a domineering manner. Frightened, Ru Xian retracted her arm hurriedly and bowed in a solemn manner. Greetings, Master. Dao Lord Scarlet Star said in a deep voice, I was about to enter seclusion, but I sensed something on a whim. Not long after I left the sect, I sensed a fight here and hurried over. Pausing for a moment, he surveyed his surroundings and looked at the corpses on the ground. Finally, his gaze landed on Su Zimo. Seems like I'm late. Su Zimo cupped his fists and bowed slightly. Greetings, Senior. I'm Mo Ling. Were you the one who saved my 3 good-for-nothing disciples? Dao Lord Scarlet Star asked slowly with a suppressive aura. Against the might of Dao Lord Scarlet Star, Su Zimo was indifferent and replied with a calm expression, I happened to pass by and helped out of convenience. All right. Dao Lord Scarlet Star praised internally. It was truly rare for a nascent soul to be able to remain calm and composed under his suppressive aura. Dao Lord Scarlet Star retracted his pressure and asked in a much friendlier manner, My young friend, you've helped me out of justice and saved my 3 useless disciples. What do you want as a reward? If it's within my capabilities, I won't decline. Just as Su Zimo was about to decline, Nangong Ling shouted anxiously, Master. Dao Lord Scarlet Star frowned and glanced sideways. Even though Nangong Ling did not say anything, it was clear that he was using his spirit consciousness to send voice transmissions. Dao Lord Scarlet Star's expression changed and his eyes shone with a divine light as his Dao Lord's aura descended once more. He narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Lu Hanyan and Ru Xian, asking in a deep voice. Is what Linger said true? Ru Xian nodded. Lu Hanyan looked at Su Zimo worriedly and nodded as well. Suddenly, Dao Lord Scarlet Star turned around and walked toward Su Zimo with a scorching aura, his gaze cold. Speak. Where did you learn the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra? Who are you? Dao Lord Scarlet Star had an intimidating aura and a burning gaze, as though he wanted to incinerate Su Zimo. Master. Lu Hanyan replied hurriedly, this fellow Daoist did save the 3 of us without any ill intentions. Please show mercy, Master. Humph. Without turning back, Dao Lord Scarlet Star glared at Su Zimo and said coldly, that depends on whether he's honest or not and if he can give me a good reason not to kill him. The 3 of you should know that the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra is passed down by our Grandmaster and is the foundation of our faction. We must not allow it to be leaked. If he doesn't explain himself, he won't be able to escape death today. Dao Lord Scarlet Star's tone was murderous without any room for negotiation. Suddenly, a sigh sounded in his mind. That sigh carried an indescribable sadness and vicissitude. Your little tiger? Right after, a question sounded in Dao Lord Scarlet Star's mind, as though unable to confirm. Dao Lord Scarlet Star's expression changed and he could not help but stagger 2 steps in retreat. He looked at Su Zimo as though he had seen a ghost. Master, what's wrong? Nangong Ling and the other 2 were even more confused when they saw how odd Dao Lord Scarlet Star's reaction was as they closed in and asked anxiously. Dao Lord Scarlet Star's reaction was intense as he pushed Nangong Ling and the other 2 away and hollered, Go away. He glared at Su Zimo who was not far away with a bewildered expression. Nobody could understand the fear he felt at that moment. His real name was Lin Hu and he joined the 100 Refinement sect 5,000 years ago. Ever since he entered the Void Reversion realm, he had established his Dao title as Scarlet Star. Apart from a few Grand Elders who had not left the sect for a long time, no one knew his real name. As for the term Little Tiger, it was only used 5,000 years ago when he first joined the sect and was still a child. At that time, he was strong-headed and clumsy in everything he did. However, his master and Grandmaster loved and took care of him. In the past, apart from his master, his martial uncles and that Grandmaster whose name shook the entire Tianhuang mainland were the only ones who called him that. After so many years, when he heard the term again, Lin Hu, also the current Tao Lord Scarlet Star, was stunned. It was as though time had reversed and he had returned to the past. Who are you? Tao Lord Scarlet Star asked the same question once more. However, he was no longer as aggressive and murderous as before. Instead, there was a hint of trepidation and anticipation. Sigh. A sigh sounded in his mind once more. Initially, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was unsure. After all, when he disappeared, Tao Lord Scarlet Star was still a child and his name was not Scarlet Star. However, Tao Lord Extreme Fire no longer had any doubts after seeing Tao Lord Scarlet Star's reaction. Tao Lord Extreme Fire released a spirit consciousness that formed a scorching red barrier that isolated Nangong Ling and the other two. Thereafter, a scarlet essence spirit floated out from Su Zimo's left wrist. Standing in midair, it looked at Tao Lord Scarlet Star with a sorrowful and compassionate gaze. Tao Lord Scarlet Star was instantly stunned. He looked at the essence spirit not far away with disbelief in his eyes. Subsequently, it was ecstasy, followed by sorrow and finally endless grievance. The Dharma characteristic expert knelt on the ground with a thud, his lips trembling like a child reuniting with his kin. Tears streamed down his face as he lamented, "Grandmaster." Chapter 901, Things Have Changed. Chapter 901, Things Have Changed. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was emotional when he heard the term Grandmaster and nodded repeatedly. Good child, you've cultivated to this stage as well. Very good, well done. Hurry and get up. Although Tao Lord Scarlet Star's clothes were drenched in tears, he merely shook his head and knelt down. An ominous feeling surged through Tao Lord Extreme Fire as he took a few deep breaths before asking, "Is your master, Tianxin, doing well?" Tao Being Tianxin was Tao Lord Extreme Fire's eldest disciple and the only one among his 7 disciples who had cultivated the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra. After Tao Lord Extreme Fire went missing, it was all thanks to Tao Being Tianxin that the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra was passed down. Upon hearing Tao Lord Extreme Fire's question, Tao Lord Scarlet Star cried with a pained expression, "Master is already dead." Ah! Even though Tao Lord Extreme Fire was prepared, he let out a low cry and his eyes revealed an irreparable pain. After a long silence, Tao Lord Extreme Fire could not help but ask, "Your martial uncles, Shiyu, Changhai, and Luo Ling?" Tao Lord Extreme Fire could not continue. Tao Lord Scarlet Star lowered his head and pursed his lips, sobbing softly with his shoulders moving. The few of them did not manage to advance to the Dharma characteristic and their lifespans ended. They have already passed away. Eventually, Tao Lord Scarlet Star spoke with difficulty. Sigh. At that point, Su Zimo sighed internally. He suddenly felt pity for Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Time was merciless. Without reaching Dharma characteristic realm, one's lifespan would not exceed 5,000 years. To think that by the time Tao Lord Extreme Fire returned, all 7 of his disciples were already dead. 5,000 years had gone by and the saddest thing was that things had changed. Tao Lord Extreme Fire remained silent and closed his eyes with a sorrowful expression, as though he had aged considerably in an instant. The figures of the 7 disciples flashed through his mind. The laughter of the 7 disciples seemed to echo in his ears. When he left, those disciples were not old and were no more than 1,000 years old. The youngest, Shiyu, was only a little over 100 years old. In Tao Lord Extreme Fire's eyes, he was like a child. Yet, by the time he returned, he could no longer see them again. Su Zimo stood silently at the side, not knowing how to console Tao Lord Extreme Fire. This was the cruelty of the cultivation world. Apart from the fights between cultivators, races, good and evil, immortals and fiends, time was like a knife that hung at the back of their necks. If one were to stop on the path of cultivation, the saber would slash down. No one was spared. all of a sudden. As though he thought of something, Tao Lord Extreme Fire opened his eyes and they seemed to burn with flames. It can't be. Tao Lord Extreme Fire shook his head. It's understandable that Luo Ling, Shiyu, and the others haven't cultivated the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra and haven't reached the Dharma characteristic realm. However, your master Tianxin clearly cultivated the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra. Furthermore, he was already at the perfected void reversion realm when I left and could step into the Dharma characteristic realm at any moment. How could he have passed away? At that point, Tao Lord Extreme Fire suddenly recalled that Tao Lord Scarlet Star had said that his master had died and not passed away. Generally speaking, the word die was not used to describe cultivators who had passed on peacefully. What happened to Tianxin? Tao Lord Extreme Fire asked slowly. Tao Lord Scarlet Star had already stopped crying. Clenching his fists and gritting his teeth, his eyes were filled with hatred. It's the master of Hellfire Hall. Who is he? Tao Lord Extreme Fire asked. I heard that he's a traitor of 100 Refinement sect. Tao Lord Scarlet Star nodded and looked up at Tao Lord Extreme Fire with a conflicted expression. His Tao title is Purple Flame. He was my senior brother. Tao Lord Extreme Fire connected the sentence calmly. Su Zimo was shocked. To think that the master of Hellfire Hall was an expert of Tao Lord Extreme Fire's generation and was even his senior brother. Tao Lord Extreme Fire asked, what happened exactly? About 4,000 years ago, the master of Hellfire Hall betrayed the sect and established his own sect, creating Hellfire Hall. Tao Lord Scarlet Star said, he's extremely ambitious. The moment he established Hellfire Hall, he wanted to replace 100 Refinement sect. What are the Grand Elders of the sect doing? They allowed Hellfire Hall to exist till now? Tao Lord Extreme Fire frowned. Tao Lord Scarlet Star said bitterly, it's said that there's a super sect backing Hellfire Hall and the sect doesn't dare to act rashly. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said indifferently, his accomplishments in weapon refinement are not inferior to mine. Coupled with the support of a super sect, he must be developing rapidly. That's right. Tao Lord Scarlet Star said, the elders of the sect saw that the rise of Hellfire Hall was inevitable and could only give up. They just hope that the two sects can coexist peacefully. However, the winds don't stop blowing even when the trees want peace. Not only does Hellfire Hall want to replace 100 Refinement sect, they also want the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra. The flames in Tao Lord Extreme Fire's eyes burned brighter. Tao Lord Scarlet Star continued, Master had already reached the Dharma characteristic realm a long time ago. However, he fell into a trap of the Master of Hellfire Hall and was captured alive. He spent so much effort to whip and torment Master's essence spirit in an attempt to force out the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra. However, Master refused to say a single word even at death's door and his soul was ripped apart, resulting in his death. Su Zimo was enraged when he heard that. That was way too vicious. No matter what, the Master of Hellfire Hall was once a disciple of 100 Refinement sect. Yet, he was so cruel to his former fellow sect mates. Even ghosts wouldn't be able to tolerate his behavior. Senior Brother Purple Flames, when my body recovers, I'll definitely pay you a visit and retrieve your soul to refine it in front of my disciple's grave for 3 days and nights. The flames in Tao Lord Extreme Fire's eyes burned brightly as though they were two gigantic fireballs that wanted to incinerate all living beings in the world with torrential killing intent. Grandmaster, don't be rash. Tao Lord Scarlet Star said hurriedly, the Master of Hellfire Hall is no longer the same as before. He has long entered the conjoint body realm. Don't take the risk, Grandmaster. Above the Dharma characteristic realm was the conjoint body realm and could be considered as a mighty figure. It was an omnipotent intent. In the past 5,000 years, Tao Lord Extreme Fire had struggled between life and death. It was already extremely fortunate that he was still alive. However, the cultivation of the Master of Hellfire Hall did not fall. Instead, his cultivation improved day by day and he had already attained the title of a mighty figure. The gap between them had already widened. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was not afraid at all and merely sneered. A conjoint body mighty figure? Very well. If he was still a Dharma characteristic Tao Lord, it would be boring even if I killed him. Su Zimo's eyelids twitched when he heard that bold statement. Tao Lord Scarlet Star could not help but ask, Grandmaster, where have you been all these years? Your body. It's a long story. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said, my body has already been destroyed. The reason why I've returned is to reconstruct my body. Don't worry, Grandmaster. Tao Lord Scarlet Star clearly had some understanding of the ancient technique of forging a body as well. He hurriedly said, the sect has quite a number of top-grade materials for forging bones. If you need anything else, I'll definitely do my best to get it for you. Grandmaster, please hurry back to the sect with me. Tao Lord Scarlet Star continued, if those old fogies in the sect knew that you were still alive, they would definitely faint from laughter. Chapter 902, A Random Uncle Master from the Skies? Chapter 902, A Random Uncle Master from the Skies? I can't reveal the news of my return for now. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said in a deep voice, apart from some old fogies in the sect, don't tell anyone else, including your 3 disciples. Don't worry, Grandmaster. Tao Lord Scarlet Star patted his chest and guaranteed, I'm the most tight-lipped. If Nangong Ling and the other 2 saw this, their jaws would probably drop. Their usually stern master who did not smile much revealed a hint of childishness in the face of Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Tao Lord Extreme Fire thought for a moment and asked, earlier on, I heard that 100 Refinement Sect is going to have a weapon refinement competition with Hellfire Hall. When will that be? 3 months later, at the 1,000 Crane Tea Banquet. At the mention of that, Tao Lord Scarlet Star revealed a worried expression. Tao Lord Extreme Fire asked again, what 1,000 Crane Tea Banquet? Why haven't I heard of it before? Tao Lord Scarlet Star replied, around 3,000 years ago, a mystic tea tree was discovered in a valley under 1,000 Crane Sect's jurisdiction. The mention of that had Su Zimo's heart skipping a beat. In the ancient books at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, there were some records of the mystic tea tree. The mystic tea tree was a variant of the primordial era and had long gone extinct. It was said that the tree was extremely magical and its leaves would only mature once every 1,000 years. Furthermore, the leaves would wither within a day after maturing. The essence spirit of a nascent soul would receive unimaginable nourishment if they drank the tea that was brewed with spirit spring water within that single day. Drinking a cup of mystic tea would help cultivators purge the impurities in their essence spirits and allow them to advance to the void reversion realm faster. The effect was shocking. The leaves of the mystic tea tree can't be stored and it's a waste. 1,000 Crane Sect doesn't have that many nascent souls. Tao Lord Scarlet Star said, therefore, on this day, 1,000 Crane Sect will invite the nascent souls of the Middle Continent here to have a friendly chat. The 1,000 Crane Tea Banquet is held once every 1,000 years and it's a rare opportunity. Apart from the immortal and Buddhist sects, the major sects and aristocratic families will send cultivators as well. If I can get myself a cup of mystic tea, it would be worth it even more than cultivating in seclusion for hundreds of years. Su Zimo understood. In other words, the 1,000 Crane Tea Banquet was a rare event in the cultivation world. Although it could not compare to the fight for the phenomenon ranking, it was still highly anticipated. At that time, all the major sects and clans would appear. The fight for weapon refinement between 100 Refinement Sect and Hellfire Hall was perfect for this tea banquet. It would attract the attention of countless cultivators. Tao Lord Scarlet Star said worriedly, if we lose this match, our 100 Refinement Sect's reputation will be tarnished and Hellfire Hall will definitely not let go of this opportunity. At that time, if the super sect behind Hellfire Hall takes the opportunity to step in and support them, they might replace 100 Refinement Sect. Su Zimo was not bothered by the fight for weapon refinement. After all, he could not help much in this matter. The only thing he paid attention to was the 1,000 Crane Tea Banquet. Since all the major factions were gathered at this tea session, it was unknown if Deity would appear. If Deity appeared, he could find an opportunity to kill him to prevent future troubles. Dao Lord Extreme Fire frowned and asked, "Are you not confident of winning this weapon refinement competition?" "No." Dao Lord Scarlet Star shook his head. "Among my 3 disciples, Lu Hanyan is the one with the highest attainments in weapon refinement. However, she's still slightly inferior compared to that genius from Hellfire Hall." Dao Lord Extreme Fire frowned. If he could recover his body, he could naturally step in and start a new fight as a weapon refinement Grandmaster. However, 3 months was too short and he had yet to reconstruct his body. Dao Lord Extreme Fire looked at Su Zimo instinctively. At that moment, Su Zimo's mind was filled with thoughts of how to kill Deity and he did not notice Dao Lord Extreme Fire's gaze. Dao Lord Extreme Fire glanced at Su Zimo before shaking his head with a bitter smile as he thought to himself. Zimo has just started refining dermic weapons not long ago and hasn't even refined a single dermic weapon yet. How can he compare to Lu Hanyan? While Dao Lord Extreme Fire was looking at Su Zimo, Dao Lord Scarlet Star was also sizing him up, trying to guess his background. Initially, he thought that Su Zimo was just an ordinary nascent soul. Now that he saw how much Dao Lord Extreme Fire trusted Su Zimo, he could not help but wonder what their relationship was. Dao Lord Extreme Fire pondered for a long time without any clues and said, "We'll talk about this in the future." "Who's the current sect master?" "It's senior brother White Flames." Dao Lord Scarlet Star replied. Dao Lord Extreme Fire smiled faintly. "So, it's him. He was also a brat when I left. I'll head back to the sect to take a look. Take care of Mo Ling first." Dao Lord Extreme Fire reminded him before turning to Su Zimo. "The 1,000 Crane Tea Banquet is in 3 months. If you're not in a hurry, you can stay in 100 Refinement Sect for a period of time and attend the tea banquet with them." "All right." Su Zimo nodded in agreement. Now that he knew that Ji Qingtian, Leng Ro, and the others were fine, he was in no hurry to meet his old friends. The 1,000 Crane Tea Banquet was in 3 months and he would naturally be able to meet everyone then. Dao Lord Extreme Fire had yet to gather all the materials for forging his bones and body. Su Zimo might be of some help if he stayed in 100 Refinement Sect. Frowning slightly, Dao Lord Scarlet Star pointed at Su Zimo and could not help but ask, "Grandmaster, who is that little fellow? Why do I have to make arrangements for him personally?" In Dao Lord Crimson Star's opinion, he was a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord after all. How could he be reduced to arranging a place for a little nascent soul? Dao Lord Extreme Fire said indifferently, "You can call him Uncle Master." With that said, Dao Lord Extreme Fire put away the surrounding flame barrier and transformed into a streak of light, disappearing into the void instantly. "What?" Dao Lord Scarlet Star was stunned. "Uncle. Master?" Dao Lord Scarlet Star glared at Su Zimo unblinkingly, as though he wanted to devour the latter. Su Zimo coughed gently in embarrassment as well. He had just joined Dao Lord Extreme Fire as a disciple and was indeed a little young. He was not used to suddenly having a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord's disciple nephew. Nangong Ling and the other 2 discussed softly on the spot, speculating about various possibilities. Before they realized it, the flame barrier beside them disappeared and a red light flashed before their eyes. None of them paid attention to it. Immediately after, the 3 of them saw their master standing face to face with the unknown nascent soul. Both of them were silent and the atmosphere was strange. What had just happened? Nangong Ling and the other 2 were confused. "Master?" Nangong Ling called softly. Dao Lord Scarlet Star frowned and felt that something was amiss. The little fellow before him was only at nascent soul realm at more than 100 years old. Yet, a 5,000-year-old monster like him had to address this little fellow as Uncle Master? How was that possible? Grandmaster must have said something wrong in confusion. However, I seem to have heard the words Senior Uncle. Dao Lord Scarlet Star was conflicted. Right then, his eyes lit up when he heard Nangong Ling's voice. He slapped his forehead in realization. Grandmaster did not ask me to address this man as Uncle Master. Instead, he wanted my 3 disciples to address him as Uncle Master. In that case, Mo Ling is my junior brother. Yes, that must be the case. Dao Lord Scarlet Star sorted out his thoughts and was delighted. Dao Lord Scarlet Star was frowning a moment earlier and was now laughing to himself foolishly as he rubbed his head. Nangong Ling shuddered at the sight of that and could not help but ask, Master, who is this Mo Ling? Dao Lord Scarlet Star waved his hand. You guys can call him Uncle Master. Chapter 903, Long Lost Junior Brother. Chapter 903, Long Lost Junior Brother. Nangong Ling and the other 2 looked confused as well. How did someone appear out of nowhere and become their Uncle Master? Could it be any more perfunctory? Nangong Ling scratched his head and laughed dryly. Master, can we not joke around? Who is this fellow Taoist? How does he know the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra? Who's joking with you? Dao Lord Scarlet Star rolled his eyes and pointed at Su Zimo. He knows the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra because he's my junior brother. Nangong Ling and the other 2 were dumbfounded. They were not fools. It was clear from the way Dao Lord Scarlet Star and Su Zimo behaved that they did not know each other previously. How did they become fellow disciples in the blink of an eye? Ru Xian leaned forward and chuckled. Master, stop fooling around. You're already at the Dharma characteristic realm and your junior brother is only at the nascent soul realm. Who would believe that? Dao Lord Scarlet Star was stunned as well. Immediately, he glared at Ru Xian and berated, Stop being cheeky. Ru Xian pouted and retreated. With a stern expression, Dao Lord Scarlet Star said in a deep voice, It's normal that junior brother's cultivation realm isn't high because he hasn't cultivated for long. This junior brother of mine is only in his 140s. He's younger than all of you. Although Ru Xian and the others could not tell Su Zimo's age, Dao Lord Scarlet Star could. Nangong Ling and the other 2 were dumbfounded. They had seen that Su Zimo had a boorish appearance and was steady in his actions. No matter what, he should be several hundred years old. To think that he was only more than 100 years old. 100 years old seemed very old. However, nascent souls had a lifespan of 1,000 years. If compared to the lifespan of a mortal at 100 years, Su Zimo would be equivalent to a teenager who was younger than 20 years old. A 100-year-old nascent soul was equivalent to a young expert in the mortal realm. Furthermore, Su Zimo was already at late-stage nascent soul. His cultivation speed was terrifying. Nangong Ling and the other 2 were over 200 years old and were older than Su Zimo. They were considered rare paragons although they had only cultivated to early-stage nascent soul. Among them, Nangong Ling was ranked 83rd on the phenomenon ranking. Prior to this, although Su Zimo had displayed powerful methods, Nangong Ling did not think much of it. In his opinion, as long as he could cultivate to late-stage nascent soul realm, he would definitely be stronger than Su Zimo. To think that he had already lost. What Nangong Ling and the other 2, including Dao Lord Scarlet Star, did not know was that the reason why Su Zimo could only reach late-stage nascent soul realm after cultivating for more than 100 years was because he had cultivated 2 essence spirits. Furthermore, the black-haired essence spirit had to cultivate the top 2 cultivation techniques of the immortal and Buddhist sects. Although the cultivation technique was powerful, it consumed twice as much time. Furthermore, at least half of the power of Su Zimo's essence spirit was used to nourish the creation green lotus during this period of time. The speed at which his cultivation was raised had slowed down significantly unknowingly. Otherwise, he might have reached his current cultivation realm before he was even 100 years old. In reality, based on seniority, Su Zimo was Dao Lord Extreme Fire's disciple, so he was the junior brother of Dao Lord Tianxin who was the master of Dao Lord Scarlet Star. In that case, he was indeed Tao Lord Scarlet Star's Uncle Master. Su Zimo smiled and watched everything quietly without correcting them. Tao Lord Scarlet Star had lived for more than 5,000 years, and the connection might not have been difficult for him to make. However, he might have just found it hard to accept right away. After all, he had a noble status in 100 Refinement sect and was considered the master of the extreme fire lineage. Su Zimo was more than 100 years old. In Tao Lord Scarlet Star's eyes, he was still a wet behind-the-ears child. Now that this little child had suddenly appeared and became his Uncle Master, how was he going to survive in the sect? Every time he saw Su Zimo, he would have to bow to him and address him as Uncle Master. The thought of that was enough to drive him crazy. Su Zimo did not expose Tao Lord Scarlet Star for pretending to be ignorant for the moment. After all, he was indifferent towards seniority and had a carefree personality without much regard for the rules. Furthermore, he was indeed too young. If a 5,000-year-old old monster like Tao Lord Scarlet Star were to bow to him every day and address him as Uncle Master, he would feel embarrassed. Only more than 100 years old? Ru Xian circled around Su Zimo and exclaimed, "Why do I feel like he's an old man around 700 to 800 years old?" Su Zimo smiled calmly without retorting. Now that he had changed his appearance, he indeed looked much more mature. Lu Hanyan, on the other hand, did not say anything. She merely stole occasional glances at Su Zimo with curiosity in her eyes. When Nangong Ling noticed this, he was even more anxious. He had a crush on Lu Hanyan and was even willing to join 100 Refinement sect with her. Nangong Ling felt that he had lost face in front of his beloved and his limelight was stolen by this unknown person for everything that happened today. That was the reason why Nangong Ling targeted Su Zimo. However, he did not have any ill intentions. Initially, Nangong Ling was still thinking about how he should impress Lu Hanyan in the future and compete against Imo Ling. But great, this person had suddenly become their Uncle Master all of a sudden. How am I going to compete? Nangong Ling grumbled internally, the difference in seniority is too great. Nangong Ling could not help but feel upset when he thought about how he had to address Mo Ling as Uncle Master respectfully every single time they met. Furthermore, this Uncle Master was younger than him. There was something amiss about this matter no matter how he thought about it. If this person was Tao Lord Scarlet Star's junior brother, who was his master? One had to know that their powerful Grandmaster and martial uncle seniors were long dead. Nangong Ling asked carefully, "Master, why haven't you mentioned having a junior brother before? Do I have to tell you kids everything about me?" Tao Lord Scarlet Star looked askance at Nangong Ling and pointed at Su Zimo. "This is my long-lost junior brother." "Why? Is there anything wrong?" "And nothing." Nangong Ling hurriedly echoed with a smile. Immediately, he rolled his eyes and asked, "Uncle Master Mo Ling's master is?" Nangong Ling was prepared to get to the bottom of things. However, before he could finish, he was glared at by Tao Lord Scarlet Star. With a stern expression, Tao Lord Scarlet Star said in a deep voice, "All right, stop asking. All you have to remember is that Mo Ling is your Uncle Master. The three of you, help him settle down and accompany him around the sect when you're free. I'll be leaving first." Tao Lord Scarlet Star had a headache from the questions and was afraid that he might spill the beans. Like Tao Lord Extreme Fire, he turned and fled, leaving Nangong Ling and the other two looking at one another. Nangong Ling was filled with questions and did not say anything in a huff, merely looking at Su Zimo with an indignant expression. Ru Xian's eyes darted around, seemingly plotting something. Lu Hanyan was still the most respectful. She smiled and came before Su Zimo, bowing slightly. "Lu Hanyan of the Extreme Fire lineage greets Uncle Master Mo Ling." "Yes." Su Zimo smiled and nodded. Slapping his storage bag, he took out a rusty flying sword and handed it over. "It's a small gift. Take it." Tisk. When Nangong Ling saw that the flying sword was ordinary and battered, he could not help but purse his lips and grumble, using a lousy flying sword to fool people? What kind of Uncle Master is this? Lu Hanyan did not reply. She took the flying sword and injected dermic powers. Buzz! The flying sword quivered gently as though it was alive and its sword chi was sharp. The rust peeled off layer by layer and 5 bedazzling lights shone from the sword, almost blinding Nangong Ling. 5 dermic patterns and perfect grade, a perfected Lord dermic weapon. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.